computer. Hey, everybody. I am your host, Felipe, and you're listening to the well, it's not the Total Basis podcast. That's a baseball podcast, but we're here to talk football with my friend, my old podcast partner, Matt Bush. Now, Matt, how you doing this evening?
I tell you what, Felipe, it feels like I'm riding a bike with you. Those Men Up North podcasts still are somewhere out on the internet, and good times and getting ready to get this ball moving again on some football talk.
Yeah, it's been a while for me. I don't remember. I think, well, I did have a little bit of football talk, but that was mostly to uh do the play-by-play of our individual drafts. So just to,
Yeah.
have fun with that. And I had some people show up for that. And it's always an adventure having anywhere between three to five people all at once talking to you. But they're enthusiastic about it. Oh yeah, this is what I did for my team, and I justify this pick with my team because of the X, Y, and Z. So that's always interesting to have different takes from different people as opposed to me just sharing my take and sharing my opinions. So it's good to hear different voices in my head. But today I was even thinking like I should just go with this total thing instead of total bases. If we're talking football, it should be total yards. It's a total
I,
yards podcast.
I like it. I
Yeah, right.
really like that.
Yeah, I
Total
thought of
yards.
total yards, total yards. Well, we're gonna talk about total everything here. We're both Bears fans. For those who don't know, Matt and I we're both Chicago Bears fans. Um, been following the team, I want to say since 92, 93. I think Matt, you might go much further than that.
Yeah, I mean, from my wee days as a 4-year-old in my Jim McMahon costume and running around out in fields playing catch, pretending to be a Chicago Bear. Um, Little anecdote here for me, which rings true because I share a lot of similar traits as Tom Waddle, my favorite Bears player growing up. We're both white, we are both slow, and it just works.
Huh. Who's my favorite Bears player? Huh. Steve Walsh. No, that's terrible.
I mean, it's okay.
He's okay. I still believe that if the Bears would have just gone with him instead of Eric Kramer, they would have been in better shape.
Well, it's you can kind of argue that when Eric Kramer still holds your single season record for passing yards and touchdowns in a season.
I want to say that's more because of Jeff Graham and Curtis Conway. I cannot be told otherwise. That was more of a product of having two really good wide receivers out there. And
That's a fair assessment.
I mean, signing Jeff Graham was a game changer. But no, I can't think of anyone. In those 90s, those Wannstedt years, I can't think of anyone. Things got really interesting in the 2000s, as you know, and
Yeah.
I gotta say, I gotta say, my favorite player during that time easily was guys like Mike Brown and Charles Peanut Tillman. And as you know, Mike Brown's claim to fame was not just the back-to-back weeks where he won game-winning touchdowns in what 2001, I
2001.
believe,
Yep.
but it was I remember listening to the score. It was a giant pulsating brain of his. He was because everybody would say how smart he was. He didn't just go to Nebraska for football. This guy's really super duper smart. So
You know,
that go ahead.
Yeah, no, I go back to that Super Bowl against the Colts. If you had a healthy Mike Brown and a healthy Tommy Harris, I don't
Mm.
think Peyton Manning wins that Super Bowl.
And he probably shouldn't have been the MVP. I mean, he had those two running backs. I think it was
Yeah,
Joe Adai and Dominic Rhodes, was it?
might have been Rhodes,
I mean, he
but
was just dinking and
I think it was
dunking.
Edgerrin James, though.
No, no, I remember it. No, there was no chance in hell it was Edgerrin James. I would have
Okay.
remembered Edgerrin James. I remember it was like these two scrawny guys, but I know who they are because of fantasy and just because it's the
Yeah.
Colts, they're always on. But at this, we might be talking about the Joe Adai era and Dominic Rhodes as well as the backup, and all he was doing was just dinking and dunking to the running backs, and the Bears had
But
no. Go ahead.
I go back to the Daniel Manning blown coverage against Reggie Wayne when
No,
Reggie
it's true.
Wayne, yeah, that big touchdown catch, which, yeah, enough of that talk. I don't want to go back to my post traumatic stress. Yeah, PTSD years. I'll pass on that one.
But the whole point was, I mean, we've seen our fair shares of just bad general managers, bad coaches,
Yeah.
bad ownership decisions, bad team presidents. I mean, if you really look at it,
Yep.
who's the guy now? Is it Kevin Warren? Is that his name?
Yep. It is Kevin Warren.
He might be the best one since I've been a Bears fan in the 90s. He might be the best one of the bunch. that I've ever seen.
Uh,
Go ahead.
well, Ted Phillips has been pretty much he was in that role for about God at least 20 years.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
I mean, we have a short runway with that. So
By the way, it was Joe Adai and Dominic Rhodes.
look at you, an almanac.
Just, yeah, right. I'm an internet of knowledge here because I happen to have the internet in front of me. So yeah, anyway, but I gotta say I've been impressed with what Ryan Poles has done with. I'll even give a pass to Matt Eberflus. There are some things that like there's some time management issues that I have with him. Like, why are you doing this, bro? Come on, how long you been in coaching the NFL now? But he's calling all the defensive plays. The defense looks great. Caleb Williams, he's learning. It's like we talked about in our football group over there at Football Life. Guys, calm down. It's going to be a little steep learning curve with Caleb Williams. Rome wasn't built in one day. He happens to be our wide receiver that we drafted along with Caleb Williams, but it's gonna work out. You just got to be patient. Forget Justin Fields. He ain't coming back. This is Ryan Poles' guy. He's gonna live and die with this guy. The whole coaching staff is gonna live and die with Caleb Williams. So you might as well go out there and enjoy. Oh, and the other thing I said, by the way, this is an easy schedule. We have some winnable games coming up, and sure enough, what is the record now? 4-2, I believe, right?
Yep, 4-2.
Let's calm down, back the train up a little bit, and just enjoy it. Enjoy it because it's gonna get tougher soon. I had the schedule up and I lost it, but yeah, it's about to get tough here. But this was a nice little test. I knew that we should have lost the Texans game. That was not going to be an
Yep,
easy game to overcome. What was the other game we lost? We lost to the Colts, right?
Colts.
That
Yeah,
that should have been a winnable game. Yeah, you
I
can't.
think.
Go ahead.
Well, you look at it, Felipe, and I think one of the big things is if we just looked at the schedule to start, let's say when it came out in April, I think we would all took 4-2 because you can swap the Colts and Rams. Like the Rams, if healthy, that probably would have been a loss. If you're just playing that game, and then the Colts would have been a win. So I think 4-2 was a reasonable expectation coming into your first 6 games and to get to the bye week.
Yeah,
Um, I think the most encouraging thing is you don't control who you play. You just play who you play that's in front of you that week. And this team's always seems focused. They played defensively every game this year. You cannot complain about what they've done defensively. I think there's still question marks with Eberflus, to your point. I don't love his challenges. I don't love when there was a play in the Jags game this past Sunday where the wide receiver, I think it was Brian Thomas or one of them, caught the ball when it was on the ground. Like they used the ground to secure
oh,
the catch.
yeah, that was disappointing.
That was a very challengeable play, and he didn't throw the flag. And then there's
Oh,
other plays where you see it and he challenges it, and you're just like, what are you challenging? The time
yeah,
management is an issue,
yeah,
but I think where you got to give Eberflus credit and where you have to give him a knock is he does really well against bottom tier quarterbacks. I need to see him beat the CJ Strouds of the world. I need to see him beat you know obviously they don't play Patrick Mahomes this year. I'm just trying to see like they got Brock Purdy on the schedule. That's going to be a very tough game.
Sam Darnold.
Yeah, I don't buy into the Sam Darnold hype. I do buy into the Vikings defensive hype. I think that defense is spectacular,
No,
but
listen, man. The only hype there is to buy on the Vikings is a guy named Justin Jefferson. He's quarterback proof. He's talented, athletic freak. That's the franchise right there. It's not a Sam Darnold issue. It's gonna be can we stop Justin Jefferson? So that's gonna be interesting to see. Go ahead.
well, that's why you pay Jalen Johnson all that money.
Damn right.
But another frustrating thing with Eberflus is I'd like to see Johnson match up for an entire game on the number one wide receiver. I think you gave Jalen Johnson all this money. He's got to go up against Jefferson. But I just go back to these first 6 games. The Nico Collins just abused everything that they did against him.
Yeah.
That's what concerns me. But CJ Stroud didn't have a great game. He didn't have a bad game. But the Bears, for the most part, held CJ in check. And that's kind of what they do. They make you work the entire course of the field. The thing I think when you talk about Eberflus, and where he aligns with the Bears' future. And this is how I view the Bears, Felipe. I will not consider this team a Super Bowl or NFC contender until they beat the Green Bay Packers. I
Yeah.
don't care who else is on their schedule. I don't care if they beat the Lions twice. I don't care if they beat the Vikings twice. You have to beat the Green Bay Packers. And until you do that, I'm not going to take you seriously as a contender. And Eberflus has proven that he can't to this point in time. Um, I do like what I see from Shane Waldron. I think it's a clear upgrade from Luke Getsy from last year. Like you talk about the offensive upgrades, it's been upgraded. And the most encouraging thing out of everything that we can point to as Bear fans is that not only are they beating the teams they're supposed to beat, because remember last year they beat the Panthers, but what was it, 16-13?
It was pretty
Like,
brutal, yeah.
yeah, it was a really bad score. And that's one of the worst teams in football. They beat the Panthers 36-10.
Yeah.
They beat the Jaguars 35-16.
Yep.
So they are not only beating these teams, they are pounding them into submission. The biggest answer of all was when the Jags had that long drive and they scored a touchdown. I think at that point it was 21-10. And you're like, oh boy. And then what did the Bears do? They marched right down the field, score a touchdown. We would have never seen that from any other Bears offense, let alone a Bears quarterback.
Yeah, I was getting flashbacks. I really was like, oh boy, here we go. Trevor Lawrence is gonna this is gonna be the Trevor Lawrence game in London. And it turns out
Yeah.
like the defense dialed it up a notch and Caleb Williams said, enough's enough. Let's get this W, you know. Let's forget Gerald Everett nonsense, Mercedes Lewis. This is just here, Cole Kmet, dime
Yep.
after dime after dime after dime, it seemed like. And no, it's been a joy watching this kid mature and understand the NFL speed. But yeah, these were, let's face it, these were cupcake teams, right? Um, like I said, but it was a good starting point for a guy who's in for a real steep learning curve. Like I've been, that's been the theme to my whole spiel here is it's gonna be steep. It's not gonna be easy. This is not gonna be I don't know who's a rookie quarterback that has succeeded. Well, CJ Stroud, I guess that'd be the most recent example. It's not gonna be CJ
Well,
Stroud. Not at
I,
all. Go ahead.
I would disagree a little bit with that
Okay.
because I think people forget that CJ Stroud didn't start off on fire right away. I mean, he struggled to start the year. I
Deshaun
think
Watson
when
though.
I mean, I think Deshaun Watson didn't play his first three games, and then he played halfway through his fourth game. Um, I think when you look at Caleb, the most encouraging signs are that he's getting better each and every week. Now, the stats are kind of a little bit different. Like the past 2 weeks, he's at 120 plus quarterback rating. His completion percentage is above 16, at 69 or above 69% for his completion percentage. You're
Nice.
seeing progress in all the right areas. And I think the schedule makers did the Bears a really big solid here because, yeah, it's cupcakes, but guess what? These are still NFL players. They still are better than any college football team he was ever going to see.
Right.
These teams get paid just like everybody else, and it progresses his learning curve. He can start gaining that confidence. The Commanders game coming up after the bye week is going to be huge.
Yeah.
Then you get the Cardinals, who look absolutely, it's like the bipolar Arizona Cardinals. You don't know what the hell you're going to get. I don't think it's
Yeah.
a very good football team. And then you have the Patriots before you start going into the meat of your schedule, which is going
Yeah.
to be the NFC North.
Yeah. That's
But
what I
it,
mean.
it
That's what I mean. Yeah.
but it allows them to ramp up, though. I mean, you got to be encouraged.
No,
He's figuring it out at an exponential rate.
yeah, it is encouraging. You're right. It is encouraging, but still, I mean, let's not, I'm trying to be realistic. I'm trying to like not get over the moon for this guy or for just this team in general, because it's very easy to look at the results like, oh yeah, they're back. They're back. Monsters of the Midway. But let's face it. I mean, there's degrees to all this. Relatively speaking, yeah, they get paid. That's a cupcake schedule. I like you look at but this serendipity right here coming up. There's a small upgrade on challenging teams coming up with the Commanders. Now you get to face the number two uh pick overall, I guess,
Yep.
and Jade McDaniels, those were all the people who were talking all this nonsense that, oh, it looks like the Bears are stupid for not getting McDaniels and they picked Williams instead. Well, now Williams is at the top of his game. McDaniels is the top of his game. and now the Bears are going to be on the road. Let's see what let's see where the chips may fall or whatever. The Cardinals, yes, very bipolar. I'm a Kyler Murray owner in one of my crappy leagues, fantasy
Mhm.
leagues here, and night and day. There's weeks where he looks outstanding, and there's days where he looks atrocious, and he has all the upgrades that Caleb Williams got for the Bears. I mean, he has some decent guys like in terms of skill position players. He has some really good guys on that team, and he still can't flourish, or that team still struggles to put up points or to stop anyone. But we don't know. But they're on the road. The Bears are. They're going to be on the road in Phoenix or wherever they are. Was that? It is Phoenix, right?
Glendale, but it's
Glendale.
it's basically Phoenix, but yeah.
It's all the same. It's all hot. Um, yeah, they're gonna be on the road, so it's still gonna be a good test, and that's still a team that people had a lot of high hopes for. The Cardinals did, and like you said, the Patriots they're gonna implement their own rookie Drake May. He should be uh have some games under his belt, and they have some promising skill position players that might start flourishing now with the new quarterback. But so we don't know. And the Bears, historically speaking, I know Tom Brady's not there anymore, but the most recent memories I have of the Bears playing the Patriots always whoop our asses. This time they'll
Yep.
be in our place at Soldier Field, so that might be a nice little, like you said, a little ramp up game for them before they get the Packers, the Vikings, the Bears, the 49ers, the Vikings, the Lions. Seahawks are all like same difference. I guess you never know what Seahawks team you're gonna get before the season ends with the Packers. So this is it. This is what we've been hoping for. This is what we've been wanting as Bears fans. We want a chance to prove ourselves, and we're gonna test out our mighty defense, and hopefully Caleb grows along with our defense. But everything just seems to be there for success. The only thing that's lacking is, I guess, the experience because Caleb doesn't have it. But he's gonna get a rude awakening one way or the other. It would be like a dream or a nightmare scenario for Caleb Williams after this second half of the season is over and done with.
I think what makes Caleb different, and I've said this, I probably jumped the gun a little bit, um, but right around draft time, and I think it was after Justin Fields' last game against the Packers, when I was just like, okay, this it's over with. Like it's just he's never going to be that guy. But I always thought of like Caleb Williams as a top five NFL quarterback,
Mm.
and I think that's going to happen a lot sooner rather than later. I would even be as bold to say, and I'm going to make this bold prediction. I've said it in some chats with some people. I think Caleb Williams, by the end of next season, will be the best quarterback in the NFC.
Mm.
Now, when we talk about the NFC, I want to keep everyone before they get ready their daggers out and call me an idiot and everything. The level of quarterback play in the NFC versus the AFC is completely different.
Mm.
It's night and day because you got Lamar Jackson out there. There's critics, but Lamar has a very unique game. Joe Burrow's still that guy. Josh Allen is fantastic. Patrick Mahomes is the best quarterback I've ever seen. I used to be John Elway for me. I used to wax poetically about how great John Elway was. But, you take, I think what Patrick does so well is he has a mix of John Elway and Tom Brady's drive to be the best ever. And I think Patrick is uniquely suited because he does things you've never seen before. And now he just plays within structure. The defense is great, but Caleb, I'm trying to find something to compare it to. It's like one of those guys that I see it once and I know it now. Like he never makes the same mistake twice. Never. Remember the biggest knock on him coming into the NFL was he fumbles. How many
Mm.
times has he fumbled this year?
I don't think he has. Has he?
Maybe once. Maybe he had one fumble earlier on in the year,
Yeah, maybe against the
and that might
Titans.
have been
Yeah.
yeah. But you take a look at the interceptions, all kind of different things. Like it's not the same thing, and it's not the Texan game where he had two. One was just a terrible throw, just a terrible decision. He has not made that throw again.
Hmm.
He just learns at an exponential rate. And then you put together that with the arm talent and then the weapons. I mean, find me a better three wide receivers in the NFL than Keenan Allen, Roma Dunze, and DJ Moore. And then you pair that with Cole Kmet. And now they figured out how to use DeAndre Swift.
Yeah.
My biggest concern for the Bears, and this is ultimately what I think is going to doom them, their offensive line is not this good. Like it
Yeah.
was encouraging to see the Jaguars not really get home that much with what they had. I think Walker is going to be a future sack leader. He's just got a lot of those tangible traits as a defensive end that can get pressure. Josh Hines Allen, the other defensive end for the Jaguars, really, really great player. Got paid a lot of money, still produces, gets a lot of sacks. The tackles are okay. That interior offensive line for the Bears is just dreadful.
Yeah.
And I think when you see teams, what's would be interesting to see them how they can adjust against the Packers fronts. The Brian Flores games, how can they outline the protection? Caleb's doing a really good job at identifying the blitzers, but when you go against a guy like a Brian Flores, who's so uniquely talented at understanding how to disguise blitzes, we haven't seen a defensive coordinator be able to impact the NFL like this since I would go back to probably Buddy Ryan
Mm.
because Buddy Ryan came up with something that couldn't be stopped until the Dolphins ultimately showed you the
Mm.
blueprint.
Yeah.
But it, I think you can pave a way, and I'm just going to go through it really quick. I think you could probably toss up the Commanders game. They could win that game and they can lose that game. I wouldn't be surprised with any of the results with that one. They could win it, but they could also lose it. I think the Cardinals are a win, and I
Mm.
think the Patriots are a win. So right there, you're sitting at 6-3, and you're
Yeah.
about to go in the meat grinder. Seattle's dreadful. I don't buy Seattle. So you got 7 wins. You go 3-3 against your division. That's 10 wins, and now we're looking at a playoff team.
Yep.
They get
Yep.
to 10 wins. That's a playoff team. I think they can beat the Lions without Aiden Hutchinson now
Mm.
because the Bears play the Lions really well. I think they can beat the Vikings.
Mm.
I don't believe in Sam Darnold. I just don't. And your point with Justin Jefferson is well taken. I just hope that Eberflus can do what he does, which is matched up pretty well. It just goes back to the freaking Packers, man. Like until you show me you can do it, I can't count on you. And it's a different field. It's a different Bears team. But as we sit here right now, Felipe, I think they're going 9-8 and missing the playoffs.
Let's see here. Let me see what I could. I think they have proven that. Well, in we don't have enough of a sample size, and you could say, well, what about the London game? But the road has not been friendly with this team. They
No.
look atrocious against the Texans. Although even then, atrocious means that they only lost by 6 points, and they were able to hold down C.J. Stroud and the Texans to less than 20 points. So that's impressive. But they did lose against the Colts in what was a very messy, frustrating game to deal with. A lot of things that we talked about. Matt Eberflus reared their ugly heads.
Yep.
So that's why I reluctantly say they are going to lose the Commanders game. The Cardinals game, I know you don't believe in them, but there's just something about them too, because they're just a Jekyll and Hyde teams as well. And that might be the game that kind of wakes up the Cardinals too. So let's just
Yeah.
put that as a loss. So I know you don't believe it, but something about the road and this young Bears team is making me a little bit nervous. So that's going to be their humility 2 game stretch here. But hey, I did tell you guys enjoy this first half of this schedule because it's about to get a little bit tougher. The Bears game at home against the Patriots, that's a win. So we're back to 5-4, I believe. Uh, they're gonna lose against the Packers because we always lose against the Packers. Like, I don't think this is a year for them to beat the Packers. Uh, yeah, the Packers are just on another. The way we see Caleb Williams in this Bears offense, Jordan Love is already there with these guys. I mean,
I got some Jordan Love takes that aren't very popular with Green Bay fans.
I just told my Packers fan like, yeah, because he's bragging. Oh, Jordan Love is tied for second for the most touchdowns. Can you believe it? And he's missed 2 games. And I look at his stat line. I go, damn. So you're telling me if he played those 2 games, he would have had double-digit interceptions already? My God. But Packers always play us tough. Like
Yep.
there's physical, and then there's the Packers. So I'm gonna count that as a loss. So we're back to 5-5. The Vikings game on at home, we might be able to steal that one 6-5. The Lions game on Thanksgiving, that's a 6-6 game. I know that Hutchinson isn't there, but you can't count out the Dan Campbell Lions, man.
Yeah, no, I agree with that.
That is something special going on, even without some of their talented players not being there. Even if they don't show up, they still have that's what the Bears should be striving for, aside from the Packers. But if they can't be the Packers, they should at least try to be like the Lions, right? I lost count. Where am I? 6-6.
Yeah, you're 6-6 now.
They're gonna lose to the 49ers at home, six
Yep,
and seven. They're gonna lose to the Vikings on the road, 6-8. They should beat the Lions at home, seven and
yep.
eight. Seahawks at home, 8-8, and then the Packers on the road. Okay, that's 8-9. So I'm a little bit more pessimistic than you are, just because of what I've seen so far. That I think there is a lot of smoke and mirrors to what the Bears have done against these easier teams. It's encouraging that in years past we were the easy team, and now we're beating the crap out of the teams that we're supposed to beat. But I do believe that there is a little bit of a awakening that's going to happen with this team because it's just the way it is. The Bears defense has to play well over their heads to make up for the
Mm,
fact that no, hear me out. You just mentioned that the offensive line does suck. They get bullied very easily. They give Caleb Williams the bare minimum amount of time in the pocket. And to Williams' credit, I mean, he makes something out of nothing more often than not.
yep.
But that can only take you so far, as you know. We've seen it happen with all our Bears quarterbacks, whether it be Jay Cutler, who never had any time, Mitch Trubisky, which, well, that's a different story. That's just a dumb player not knowing what to do. And then Justin Fields, well, that's a different story too. That's just a athletic player with no skill craft or any of that intangibles to take that next step. But the Steelers are
He's not a passer.
the Steelers are turning him into a game manager, man. That's how bad he.
Nah,
I'm not gonna say bad, but they've had to rein it in with him.
I think what you saw from Justin is what we saw from the Bears. 14, what was it? 14 completions for 140 yards. I mean, the roller coaster. Here's the thing: Justin's never going to win a game from the pocket. It's just
Right.
never going to happen. Caleb can, and Caleb has.
Yes.
The one thing I would argue with this situation, like, so you got him losing to the Commanders, which I think is fair. Like, that's definitely on the table. But they're a bottom tier team in pass rush win rate. They are in the bottom five. They do not get home to the quarterback. The
Right.
Cardinals are dead last in pass rush win rate. They cannot get home. Even when they blitz, they are terrible. So you can make all the noise you want. It can be loud and everything. Let's not discount the Texans. And if that's going to be our barometer for the Bears offensive line, Daniil Hunter and Will Anderson Jr. are probably the two best pair of edge rushers in the entire league. What they do to offensive tackles is just ridiculous. And that team's going to create problems for the Chiefs. Just
Mm.
mark it down now. I would not want to be the Chiefs playing against the Texans. That's the one you want to avoid. But like when you take a look at the Commanders, they're not going to be able to get home more often than not. When you take a look at the Cardinals, they're not going to be able to get home. The Patriots just stink.
Yeah.
So I think what scares a lot of people about the Commanders is not what they do defensively, but it's like offense. Like, oh my gosh, like they got this high powered offense. Jaden Daniels dropping dimes. I saw a stat 65% of their offensive plays, just right around 65%, go to the right.
Hmm.
Of all their pass plays, 65% of them go to the right.
Is that where Terry McLaurin
Jaden
is?
Jaden Daniels, I think, is dead last or in the bottom five of pass plays that traveled 10 or more yards in the air. They are a screen heavy team, but they can damn well run the football.
Hmm.
And that makes them hard to contain. And Jaden Daniels, you're going to have to do a lot of things. But to like almost to the Bears' point, like the Ravens were able to keep him within the pocket. He had a couple of big runs, nothing, earth shattering. But he's got a lot of potential, but I'm not buying into this groundbreaking Jaden Daniels as a superstar quarterback yet. Just like I think Caleb has a ways to go to get in that conversation as well.
Right.
But both players have all the tools to do it. Make no mistake, these are really quarterbacks, but they both have a long way to go. At the end of the day,
Yeah.
what's going to make or break this Bears season, and I think it goes right to your point, what you do against the Packers. I think both of us have us. I think both of us have the Bears losing both Packer games,
Yeah.
just because until we see it, we don't believe it.
Yeah. That's why
I
I have a
think if
go ahead.
yeah, that's why you have 8-9. That's why I have them 9-8. I think there's a path to 10 wins.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. No, it's definitely doable. It's definitely doable. That's why I said the defense is gonna have to play well over their heads on some of these matches, including games against. I know you don't believe in Sam Darnold, but I believe in Justin Jefferson, and you have to do whatever it takes to shut him down because where Justin Jefferson goes, the Vikings go. That's the only reason Sam Darnold is even a thing this year. Let's
Yeah.
yeah. Jefferson is making Darnold. Jefferson is making you forget that JJ McCarthy exists. So
Well,
that's that's
what
one.
makes the I think it's the Vikings hard done though too is Jordan Addison's make a name for himself. Jordan
Mm,
Addison, Caleb's weapon at USC, his first year at USC, and we saw how good Caleb was with Jordan Addison.
mhm.
Jordan Addison has an innate ability to find spots within the field to get open. He's very crafty. Justin Jefferson's just a hard matchup. When he's covered, he's not. It's just like it will take Jalen Johnson a superb effort to get him. But I still go back to if you are a top five defense, if your head coach is there because of the defense, and let's face it, I think that's why Eberflus still has a job because if they don't go 7-10, last year with some of those defensive performances, I think the Bears have a new head coach this year. I don't think he comes back. My expectation is for this defense to do what you're saying. You better damn well play better than the sum of your parts. He said it during the London game 1 + 1 = 3. You can question the man's math, but um, that's my expectation. If you're a defensive head coach in the NFL today,
Mhm.
your defense better damn well be one of the best ones in the entire NFL. They are. They're top five in a lot of categories. They are a great red zone defense. Better win. You better win your division games. You better go 3-3. And whether it's doable or not, whether it's fair or not, I don't care. You're a defensive head coach in an offensive NFL. That's what I expect.
Yeah, unfortunately, they're gonna. Well, I'm saying they have to play over their heads because if you're gonna win in today's NFL, there's gonna be against some of these elite teams. There are gonna be some shootouts. There's some um, high scoring affairs, and it does become a war of attrition. Can your offense keep up with the other team's offense? It's hard to keep up when I know that you mentioned the Commanders and Cardinals and even the Patriots have are not well suited against hurrying the passer or rushing the
Yeah.
passer or sacking the quarterback. But we've seen this team struggle against weaker teams as well. It takes them a while against those weaker teams for them to gel, and then Caleb Williams has all this time in the world to just sling the ball around, and it looks beautiful. But when that offensive line is not doing the bare minimum to protect and to actually push the line and run the ball, it gets pretty ugly in a hurry. And if you can't do that, and you have a tired defense, we've seen this Bears defense get tired. Like it's
Yeah.
just natural. They're humans. The kids don't have the candy anymore, so can't count on them being superhuman without the superhuman treats. This is what happens. And but to their credit, I thought they looked gassed against the Texans. And I
Oh,
go
yeah.
back, they only gave up 19 points against well, they got murdered by Nico Collins, but they
He's
still
the only one that did it.
he was the only one that did it, and they got Joe Mixon out of the game, which
Yep.
that's another that's another discussion to be had as to whether it was legal or illegal that tackle there or not. Mixon is crying foul, but it is what it is.
Well, I
Um,
think
Go ahead.
I think you take a look at the defense as a whole. I don't know
Mhm.
if it's 10 or 11. I don't know how many games in a row now where they held their opponents under 21 points per game. So, like, the magic number is 20. Now, they did hold the Packers under 20 points when they last played them. I think they lost 17 to 13 or 14, whatever abomination that was, or 17 to 9. I'm trying to get that game out of my head. But the defense is doing what it's supposed to be doing. My biggest concern, and ultimately what I think is going to hurt them against teams like the Packers and ultimately maybe the Lions, because the Lions have a really, really good offensive line. As we sit here, I'm telling you that the Commanders can't rush the passer, that the Cardinals can't rush the passer. Well, shit. I'm taking a look at the Bears this past Sunday. They had one sack until the fourth quarter. And that was a combo sack by Montez Sweat and I believe Demarcus Walker.
Yeah.
And it's just like Javon Dexter has gotten a lot better. I think he is a solid defensive tackle, but they are not getting anything from the other edge. Like
Mm.
it is just they're double, triple teaming Montez Sweat. They're playing games with Dexter, so it makes it a little bit more difficult for him to get home now. I just think this team badly needs, like, before we start talking Super Bowl, all right, let's just say, let's play this pie in the sky game. If they're going to be a Super Bowl contender in 2025, Felipe,
Hmm.
they have to get another edge rusher.
Mm.
They need a left tackle that is just a stonewall left tackle. You never have to chip, you never have to double. He's an eraser. He takes the best edge rusher on that side and takes them out of the game. And you got to find a center. Like you have got to find someone that can play center for this football team.
Mm.
Shelton's done okay, but I've seen him like that Jeffrey Simmons game and Devondre Sweat against the Titans. He was on his ass more than he was standing up.
Yeah, that's what I'm talking about. It's putrid to see them. Like, there are plays where they're trying to run the ball and all five offensive linemen are on the ground already.
Yeah,
And everybody, all the defensive players are like a rabid, like a wolf pack, just circling and stopping the rush, stopping the run from fulfilling anything. We don't even get back to the line of scrimmage. That's how frustrating it's been. So that's how I envision it. Until that improves. And you're talking about pie in the sky. I mean, those are the two most expensive
yeah. Oh, it's not cheap.
groceries. Yeah, groceries you can get on the market right now. As what was it? The Bill
Left
Parcells
tackle
used
and
to
edge
say.
rusher. Oh
Yeah,
yeah, yep.
yep. Left tackle and pass rusher. Yeah, and either get them on free agency or you get them through the draft. And we just talked about before the show started how much of a crapshoot any of these drafts are. And yeah, you could draft a left tackle in the first round, and there's no guarantee that that guy's gonna be the answer to all your problems either. So
Oh,
it's
they take
tough,
years to develop, man. Yeah.
really.
Like
Yeah.
I like what Braxton Jones has turned into. I think he's a perfect swing tackle in the NFL, a guy that can come in for someone that's injured. I think Darnell Wright's a really good right tackle that's ascending. Like he's your power run blocker. But man, I struggle to find this team, a path forward with these five offensive linemen. Like
Yeah.
I did an exercise, and let's go through it. So let's just say, could these guys play for the Chiefs? All right, and like if we're going to compare them or the Lions, whichever team you want to do, but is Braxton Jones a starter on an elite playoff team?
From my vantage point at this moment, mid-October of 2024, I would say no.
I agree with you. Tevin Jenkins,
Oh, probably no, no,
no, no,
no.
yeah, he's not. All right, Cameron Shelton, your center. Let's be real. That's a no. Like just right off
That's
the bat,
no,
he's
no.
probably the worst center in the NFL, and he's probably more suited to be a backup.
Yeah.
All right, right guard. I mean, this is the position of abyss on the offensive line for the Bears because Nate Davis not very good. Um, I guess Matt Pryor is there now. I
Yeah.
don't love him. Ryan Bates comes back. Maybe Ryan Bates takes that position, but I don't see any of the three being a Super Bowl or an elite playoff team caliber right guard.
Yeah, that was the one thing that people were questioning. Like, when are we going to fix this offensive line? But I feel like that's been a question that people have been asking since the Jay Cutler days. So
Well,
I don't know what's up with this franchise not being able to shore up
Nag
that offensive line. Go ahead.
Nagy had a good one in 2018.
Mm,
That offensive line wasn't terrible. It wasn't
right.
great, but not terrible. Ryan Poles has some work to do. Like
Mm.
he went grocery shopping. I don't know how to say it. Like he went to Costco and he didn't go to the butcher. You know, like you bought all the sauces, you bought all the oils, you did all this fancy stuff, but you didn't buy the meat, man. You gotta buy the damn meat.
I'm laughing at the idea of he has to buy the meat man. He didn't buy the meat man. He just left him at the butcher shop. He didn't even bother looking at him. It's very
didn't
frustrating.
didn't call them.
He didn't call him. He didn't ask for a return favor. Just let the meat man roast them. That's all he did. Well, that's where we are right now with the Bears. I know I said 8-9, but I'm still optimistic about this team and their playoff hopes. I'm not giving up on them too easily. I'm still gonna have this every Sunday. I'm gonna sit on my couch and hope for the best. I'm just trying to be
Yeah,
realistic about it, and to put these over the top expectations on this roster would just be completely unfair, especially to a budding quarterback like Caleb Williams. And like I said, it's a work in progress all over the place. But if this is how the team is gonna look moving forward, like for years to come, um, I mean, this is the most sunny disposition I've been about the Bears' future in a very, very long time. So, uh, I'm convinced that Ryan Poles might just be the best GM this team has had since, shoot, I don't know, Mark
the
Catley,
80s.
or the 80s when who was it, Jim Spinks, or
Yep, yep, just
yeah.
Sphinx. Yep.
So
I'll
there you
say
go.
this. My ray of sunshine for the Bears is this.
Hmm.
You have an ascending quarterback who's on the rookie deal, the vaunted rookie deal. And this looks different. It's not Justin Fields, like we talked about. It's not Mitch Trubisky, like we talked about. Hell, it's not Jay Cutler. It's not Rex Grossman.
Yeah,
It's nothing that we've seen before in our lifetimes.
right.
And we can point to Jay saying Jay is the greatest Bears quarterback. This looks better than Jay Cutler at the
Oh yeah.
quarterback position.
Oh yeah.
And it's 6 games into the season. So I'm with you. I'm going to sit down every Sunday. I'm just going to enjoy it. Like, I'm not going to put unreasonable expectations on this team. I am going to put expectations on defense because guess what? For me, this season is about whether Matt Eberflus is your head coach going into the future.
Mm.
If he doesn't get to 9 wins, I think you have your answer.
That's a tall task. Just seeing what we saw in the schedule and just how tough this division is. And I just hate the fact that we're gonna go through another head coach. We're gonna have to go through another coaching staff, and that means that's a second offensive coordinator for Caleb Williams, unless they decide to keep what's his face. Shoot, the name
Shane
just
Waldron.
thank you. Unless they decide to keep him around, and I don't know if I'm excited about him coming back as a head coach just to keep that consistency going. I would prefer that the Poles Eberflus stay intact just for the sake of consistency. Kind of like how the Steelers keep their coaches around for a long time, like Mike Tomlin, despite the fact that Steeler fans wanted him out for the longest of time. Steelers would be up a creek without a paddle, so to speak, without Mike Tomlin as a head coach. I don't care what anybody says. Sometimes that's eye test, that's intangibles. We can do that in football because we're seeing it. Without Mike Tomlin, the Steelers are nothing. Not that Averflus could be the next Mike Tomlin, but I would like for it to be somewhat of a consistent basis. Like, this is my GM, this is my head coach. Because we all know what the rules are, right? Ryan Poles will have maybe two or three head coaches at his disposal before the team looks at him and say, well, what are you doing that's wrong? Why shouldn't we
Yep.
fire you too? And and like I said, the whole premise of this season was it feels different. It doesn't feel like it has been in the past. I
Yep.
actually believe in my general manager. I believe in the quarterback they drafted. Can we have it one time where there's not a lame duck head coach and a lame duck coaching staff when we have a rookie young quarterback like Caleb Williams on? Like, Can we just keep him around for longer than 1 year is all I'm asking. Because that's the mistake that happened with John Fox and with Matt Nagy under those other two quarterbacks with Trubisky and Fields. Consistency matters in pro sports, in any sport really, even college sports. It's it's familiarity breeds success, I guess. I don't know if whatever you want to call it, but I would like to just have that consistency. At least go for more than one season as opposed to what we've seen in the past. Anyway, but yeah, I hope they make the playoffs. I hope they make the playoffs.
I mean,
That'd be great.
I don't need to see them make the playoffs, but they got to win one Green Bay game, I think,
Mm,
to solidify Eberflus coming back. Because I mean, I think getting the 9 wins at this point, like I'm just going to call my shots. I think they beat the Commies. I think they beat the Cards, and I think they beat the Pats, and I think they beat the Seahawks. That's 8 wins.
yeah, yeah,
Now that means I have them getting absolutely brutalized in the division, which I think is going to happen.
yeah. I mean, everybody else is
Sneak,
just go ahead.
yeah, I was just going to say sneakily, and this is kind of my big picture NFL take. I think when healthy, the 49ers top to bottom have the best roster in the NFL, and I
Mm,
don't think it's really close.
right.
I think Kyle Shanahan might be the best regular season head coach in the NFL today. And I know that says a lot. I wouldn't take him over Andy Reid, though. Like, if my aspirations to win championships, I want the big guy on my sideline calling my plays and running my football team.
Right.
What we see with the 49ers losing inexplicably to the Cardinals. Then we take a look at the Chiefs, 5-0. But I mean, we could look at all the Chiefs games and we could be like, that's iffy, man.
Yeah.
That's smoke and mirrors.
It's the 50-50 games I keep telling you about. Yeah.
Yeah, and then the Ravens, they're still the Ravens, but man, defensively, 23 points here. They gave up what 40 points to the Bengals, and the
Uh,
Bengals only put up 17 on the Giants.
well,
Like,
well, let's face it. As long as Lamar Jackson's down there, and they do have some pieces on the offense. Like this is probably the most talented group of offensive players Lamar Jackson has had a chance to play around with.
yeah,
And then Joe Burrow is going to want to raise up the score as well. That was a recipe for a high scoring affair. So when you get to the Giants, the Giants don't have that firepower, but they want to make sure that they have possession of the ball. I mean, that's basically what they did against the Seahawks. They, that's why you have a point against bashing the Seahawks when we were looking at the Bears game in the future. Uh, they ran, they ran, they did whatever they wanted on offense against the Seahawks.
yeah,
The difference was in that first possession from a couple of weeks ago, they fumbled the ball at the 1 yard line or something, and then the Seahawks were able to return it back 100 yards
yeah,
back into the end zone. So what do they do with the following series? They just keep dinking and dunking all over the place and matriculating it down the field, and they score. Then they finally scored,
yeah.
and they didn't look back. So I'm not surprised because the Giants they gobble up a lot of clock is what I've noticed in the last couple of games. So I'm not surprised that the Bengals struggle, but the Ravens, it's not your it's not your father's Ravens.
No, it's
It,
not.
that was my big thing. Like, yeah, I don't want to start anybody against the Ravens now. Like, well, if Lamar Jackson wants to, that's what I talked about earlier. Like, the way you win in the NFL is you either try to constrict the other team, but the way you constrict the other team is by running the ball. You run the ball, 3 yards in a cloud of dust. You know the rules, right? I mean, time of
Yeah,
possession is important. However, you got Lamar Jackson with all these new toys around him, and he wants to prove that he's not just the best offensive player and not just the MVP, but money talks here. Uh, I forgot. Did he ever sign a contract with the Ravens, or are you still
oh
disputing?
yeah, yeah, no, no, yeah. He signed the richest deal at the time, and now I think he's like eighth or seventh on the
Yeah,
list
because I
now.
know,
It's
yeah, with Dak signing and shoot, who else
oh,
signed?
God.
Well, anyway, yeah. Well, now, okay, so then he's trying to justify the contract, like, well, I'm the man. There's an ego thing. So yeah, let's play some pinball. Let's see how many points we can rack up. Well, when you're trying to do that, you know what happens with the defense. They get gassed, they get tired. Now we got to stop this other firepower offense too. Joe Burrow is, you just mentioned him. He's the goods. He's no joke. And he too comes with a lot of fires and a lot of weaponry. And Jamar Chase, T. Higgins, now my guy Chase Brown, as I'm trying to segue into fantasy football. That's the other reason why I have you here tonight. Um, Yeah, that's a recipe for high scoring affairs. So yeah, I'm not surprised that they did so porous or so poor against the Giants. Did they lose that game against the
The
Giants?
Bengals?
Yeah.
No, they won last night. They you could have made a case that they should have lost. I mean,
Yeah.
there's a couple points. Maybe if the Giants have Malik Neighbors that game, they win.
Yeah, that's the thing. That's the thing, right?
Yeah, I mean, the injuries are killing
Oh,
teams. Like,
it's right in front of me, 17-7. Stupid.
well,
Go ahead.
and to kind of segue into fantasy a little bit here too. I mean, like I watched a little bit of the Packers Cardinals game. When I think I watched like 5 minutes of it, like to start the game, and I'm like, the Cardinals are about to get murdered.
Yeah.
It was 49 degrees. It was rainy. It looked miserable, and you could tell the Cardinals didn't want to be there. And then all those Marvin Harrison fantasy owners saw him get knocked out within what the first like 15 minutes of the game. Like, and then you take a look at the Cardinals. I don't feel good about any Cardinal fantasy players. Like I would never start their defense. I would never have their defense start a game. I can't find a matchup where I like the Cardinals defense. Then I look at Kyler Murray, which
Yeah.
we talked about pre-show. That is your quarterback in some leagues there, Felipe.
And one of them, yeah, the league that I don't like.
Yeah, well, I mean, I can understand why you don't like that league. Um, but
Yeah.
yeah, it's just like you're in this fantasy hellhole with some of these quarterbacks,
So sharing my
and
screen right now. Yeah.
yeah, and then you take a look at some of the other teams. Like, look, for me, I got Justin Fields as my starting quarterback,
Yeah.
and I'll ride with it because he's going to get me rushing points.
Right.
He ain't going to pass with the shit for the most part, but I'll get the rushing points. Kyler Murray, he had that one big breakout touchdown run, which was against the 49ers, I believe, right? Where he ran, yeah, was it 60 something yards for a
Yeah.
touchdown?
He basically got 28 points. 90% of it was on one play.
Yeah. Take a
And
look at all those 100-yard, like he has 300-yard passing games, barely two of them over 200. The,
no, bro, I'm not
to
happy.
me, yeah, I mean, that's Justin Fields numbers.
Yeah. And I got this guy in the seventh or eighth round. Admittedly, I thought that there was a dead zone on skill position players because that would instead of drafting Kyler Murray, I usually was drafting like wide receivers or running backs. But I got into this dead zone where I didn't like anybody. And I go, all right, well, I guess everybody keeps telling me that I don't take the quarterback position seriously enough. Now would be the time to get Kyler Murray, who supposedly runs the ball. And yeah, he did. You're right. 7 carries, 83 yards, which led to a big rushing touchdown. And then you never heard from him ever again. But, it's Kyler Murray, former first round pick, Cardinals franchise player. If I'm going to draft a supposed elite quarterback, this would be it, right? In the seventh or eighth round. And I've not been happy with it. I am not, I'm happier with my other team where Daniel Jones is my starter for the time being. I'm
Yeah.
happier with this team because it allowed me to have all these other skill position players, including Devontae Adams and yeah, don't mind the Justin Herbert and Tua Tagovailoa two-headed monster there. That's not been pretty either. But I last year in this league, as soon as it loads up, my starting quarterback for the majority of the season was Sam Howell, and I was able to make the playoffs with one of four teams to make the playoffs in this league because I was riding the coattails of Sam Howell, and I was happy about it. I was so much happier. I'm not happy with this. I'm gonna be 1-5 in this league,
Yeah.
and I have no running backs. I probably should have wasted a draft pick on a running back instead of Kyler Murray. I'm glad that I got a good wide receiver core, but this is not the league for it because we only start two wide receivers here. But it does offer me some depth, so I should be able to dominate in these bye weeks, and I'm not. And it goes back
Yeah.
to I can't do anything about this because he's the only quarterback I need. I shouldn't have to stream any other quarterback. Otherwise, why the hell did I spend so much draft capital on Kyler Murray? And the other thing about Kyler Murray that's so enticing, Matt Bushnell, is that his bye week is somewhere in the double digits. So you think you have it made. Like,
Yeah.
what a sweet deal. And no, it's been a nightmare. Like, I mean, we saw the numbers. It's so inconsistent for a guy with all these weapons. Um, the focal point on this franchise, he's the franchise, nobody else. And he has nothing to show for it. He has one fluke. What was it? What was it again? Let me see. Like
I
one
mean,
good game, I guess. Go ahead.
he had two. The
Right, two.
Rams game kind of misleading because he had one insane quarter where he threw three touchdowns to Marvin Harrison Jr. But that was all in the first quarter, and then it was just kind of, it looks very similar to what he's done every other week. And then against the 49ers with that long touchdown run.
And it's not going to get easier with the Chargers. I mean, the Dolphins might be an easy one, but then he gets the Bears and then a tough Jets defense. I'm
Yeah,
screwed.
that's
I
and then he's got Minnesota on the docket, and it's going to be tough sledding for him. He might be able to make some hay against Seattle there, but I mean, and then like even with you talk about Tua, like if Tua starts another game, Mike McDaniel and that Dolphins team should get thrown in jail.
and,
Like,
McDaniel say he expects him to come back this year. They're desperate, bro. I mean, you think Mike McDaniel was given this job just to look pretty? No, he was given this job because he believes in. You just mentioned Brian Flores. That's his name, right? Brian Flores, the Vikings
yep,
defensive coordinator. You just mentioned him. The reason that Flores isn't coaching the Dolphins is because he didn't believe in Tagovailoa, and McDaniel did. You think he's here, McDaniel, just to coach the backup quarterback and hope for the best? No, he came to town because of Tua,
yeah,
and he only survives as a head coach in the NFL as long as Tua is around. And this is quite the opposite because the Dolphins have a lot of very good skill position players,
yep.
but that team is atrocious without Tua. Those are the
Oh yeah,
facts. They're nothing without Tua. So that's why they're desperate for him to come back. Even though, ironically enough, the last words that McDaniel told Tua as he was taken to the locker room was he kissed him on the cheek and told him, "Hey, take care of your family." Like, what the hell
yeah.
is that? I know that McDaniel is a quirky fellow. By the way, you'll appreciate it. My wife does not see how this guy's a head coach in the NFL, by the way. So just taking a look, I know it's more cerebral kind of thing, and he's more of a player's coach, I guess, because he speaks the lingo and he's hip guy and whatever. But what the hell is that? Take care of your family? To me, that sounds like you're never going to see him ever again. That's like a send off. That's like the Brian Danielson retirement from this past Saturday at Wrestle Dream for paper. Yeah, that was a great pay per view, by the way, AEW.
I,
But no, that was supposedly Brian Danielson's last match. That's the send off. That's what McDaniel did to Tua. And then at the same time, yeah, we expect them to come back. So yeah, because you're losing. You can't win worth a lick. You're desperate. And I'm
I,
desperate too. Go ahead.
I mean, that's what it is. I mean, at this point, just take a look at this team right now. Like, I don't love Justin Herbert for a couple of reasons. Like, the offense is so discombobulated in a sense for the Chargers because they're changing their identity completely. Like,
Yeah, I
he's
know.
got one wide receiver in Quentin Johnson who still struggles to catch the football.
Yeah, he sucks.
Yeah. Well, Lad McConkey is going to be a really nice number two in the NFL. He's
Yeah.
not a number one, and that's trying to be his safety valve. But the Justin Herbert 4,000 yards, 35 touchdown days, I think are over. That's just not Harbaugh's MO.
Yeah. The only reason I got him was because he's available super late. Like, oh,
Yep.
okay. And I was getting him in all my mock drafts. So I was hoping like, well, maybe Harbaugh will come in and actually see it firsthand how amazing Justin Herbert is. You'd be stupid not to give him, let him cook a little bit. No, I was wrong. He got a bunch of guys from the Ravens that John Harbaugh didn't want anymore. So they ended up on Jim Harbaugh's team, and J.K. Dobbins is relevant, and I forgot who the other guy was. Was it Gus Edwards on that team as well, with the Chargers?
I don't know, but I know he loves Dobbins.
Yeah, I think Gus Edwards is also with the Chargers. I just know that it was like I looked at the team like
The old Ravens backfield.
it's the old Ravens, even some of the coaching staff. It's the old Ravens trying to become the new Chargers at this point, which is admirable, but it's bad for fantasy. But that's what I was banking. I was banking on, well, I got him late enough where I could justify it. Oh, he has an ankle injury. Oh, that's okay. I'll just get Tua as well. Like, who cares, right? And now I have no quarterbacks. I have two quarterbacks. One has a gimpy leg, and the other one has a bad brain. And that's why Daniel Jones is my hero. Look at
Yeah,
that.
I mean, I you know what? The one thing you can say about Daniel Jones is like he's been playing really solid NFL football.
Right.
Li- Like, and it's different because he hasn't killed you. Like, oh my God, yeah,
I
that
only had him.
Minnesota
Hold
game.
on. Before I had him for the Seahawks game and the Bengals game. Okay, that's those are the only two games I had him for. But I would have been
Okay,
better off having him for the Cleveland game and the Washington game. But yeah,
yeah.
only these two games right here, Seattle and the Bengals, and he gets the
Ugh.
Eagles next, which that's probably the time for me to drop him against the Eagles.
I mean, you got the Eagles, Pittsburgh. I mean, that Pittsburgh game's going to be a bloodbath too. Like, that's
Yeah,
not going to be fun. But then Washington could be interesting. He played good against Washington the first time around. Carolina sucks. I mean,
that's right.
I still don't believe in Carolina. Then Tampa Bay, that's going to be tough.
Yeah,
Is Dallas going to have a head coach week 13? So, yeah, I mean, who knows? But there's some things out there where I think he's serviceable, but I don't think he's a weak, like he's a stream starter. Like, okay,
damn
I'm
right.
gonna,
That's all I care
you know,
about,
j-
man.
match up, But yeah, I think it's a larger indictment of the quarterback play this year. Like a lot of people drafted Patrick Mahomes way too early, earlier than what he should have been drafted, and now we're seeing those guys kind of struggle.
Yeah.
Jalen Hurts is another one where you just don't know. If you play in a league where interceptions are penalized heavily, Jordan Love is almost unstartable in some leagues
Don't tell it
because,
to the Packer fans though.
yeah, I mean, great. He throws touchdowns, but every touchdown pass he throws like an interception to match it. So,
By the way, it was Gus Edwards with the Chargers. So yeah, they brought
okay,
everybody from the Ravens. Yeah.
go figure. But I mean,
Oh, and
I,
Greg Roman too.
Greg Roman too. You know what I saw the other day is Deshaun Watson going from top five fantasy quarterback to someone that just sits in free agency the entire year.
Yeah. Um, I believe he just got picked up in both of my leagues, so there's still people who believe in him and they
Oh
see the
my God.
they see the big name associated and like, yeah, we'd be stupid not to take a risk. What do we got? We got nothing to lose. And yeah, I have had opportunities to get Deshaun Watson. And look, I get Daniel Jones instead because I don't believe in Watson. He looks awful. Like there's
Yeah.
just nothing there. He looks like a nobody. Go ahead.
Yeah. I think he is one of the worst, outside of a fantasy perspective, one of the worst quarterbacks in the NFL. He's on the waiver wire.
He's on the waiver wire. Yeah. 4.86 points if you want it. Bo Nix doing better than,
I actually like Bo Nix a little bit.
yeah.
I think he gives you something matchup dependent. I actually like Andy Dalton too. I think that will be an interesting start.
Well, let's take a look at it. Let's see. I think we could do this by schedule. Sorry, schedule. We're not British. But yeah, Bo Nix, Drake May. I mean, these rookie quarterbacks that look pretty darn good. Where are we? We're in week 7. Yeah. Let's see. Well,
Oh,
right here, right here.
pick up Drake May.
I want the Drake May game, and I mean, even Danny Dalton against the Commanders. That looks
Yep.
promising. And then if you really want to go long term, how are the Broncos doing on defense? They're a tough defense, right?
Oh yeah, yeah. You do not want to play the that secondary is right up there with the Bears being the best
Hmm.
in the NFL. And, like it's Bears and Denver for the best secondary.
So then you drop Drake May, and then you pick up Bo Nix. And then you get Daniel Jones for week 9 and week 10, right? Because that's where the easy schedule gets back up again with the
Yeah.
Panthers and the other team. So yeah, I mean, why even draft quarterbacks? Like just stream them all season long. I've been getting away with it even in your league. When I was in your league, I got away with it with a rookie Joe Burrow and a rookie Justin Herbert. I'm sorry, not a rookie Joe Burrow, my bad. The year after he came back from a knee injury,
Yeah.
and he scored me 5 touchdowns in the championship game. But everybody slept on Joe Burrow. I was able to get him relatively late, and I actually benched him a couple of games because he was so bad because he was still getting recovering from
Yeah.
that knee injury.
Yeah.
And then Justin Herbert the year before, I was able to get him off of waivers, and I thought I was only going to get him for one game, and he just blew up, and I never looked back. He was my starting quarterback, and I didn't have to draft him. Just someone off of waiver wire. Like, why even draft a quarterback is my question.
Well, because then you're looking at the Aiden O'Connells, Spencer Rattlers, Will Levis. I mean, maybe Bryce Young starts when the Panthers season is really over.
Yeah, but I mean, I'm
But
looking at these three, the top three: Bo Nix, Drake May, Andy Dalton. I'm not looking at. I mean, Aiden O'Connell has nothing going. This is a tough. These are tough. Maybe the Dolphins game, but there's nothing here. I mean, the Raiders are
yeah,
just brutal.
yeah. I mean, when you don't start Devontae Adams and Jacoby Myers, you're going to be in for a long Sunday.
Hey, man, that's what Brock Bowers is for, man. That's it. Why draft? Why bother drafting Travis Kelce, Sam Laporta, Mark Andrews, Kyle Pitts when there's a perfectly good Brock Bowers waiting for you? I have him on both my teams. I am so happy with Brock Bowers. I'm so happy that I was able to stumble upon him. And once again, Felipe drafts a tight end late, and it goes well for him. Don't draft tight ends early. They're just gonna hurt your feeling. They're gonna hurt your heart. They're gonna break your heart. Don't do it, guys.
I think Travis Kelce, up until probably 2 years ago, is kind of when it started being like, yeah, I don't know if I want Travis Kelce, but for a while there, Travis Kelce was a first round pick.
I know, I know, I know, I know. That's, I mean, there are exceptions to the rules, but still, I mean, I didn't have Travis Kelce last year. I did go through a revolving door tight end, but I made the
Yeah,
playoffs because somebody inexplicably dropped Sam Laporta somewhere in the middle of the year. Shoot, if you're gonna give me Sam Laporta, I'll take him. Oh,
right.
how did Felipe make the playoffs last year when his team was dead to rights? Well, somebody dropped Sam Laporta and I picked him up, and I Sam Howell went on a legendary run, and that's how you make the playoffs. It's not rocket science. Let's go back to the schedule here. So yeah, it was the week 9 and then week 10. So I'll need to look in this example for a quarterback in week 7 and week 8. But who is Justin Herbert playing? Arizona. Hey, we just talked about them. Maybe
No,
he'll steal 2 touchdown passes. And the Saints, I don't believe in the Saints. They can't be
yeah,
that good, right?
they gave up 51 to the Buccaneers. So,
Sold. I'm down. So there you go. Maybe I can keep Daniel Jones, but man, that Bo Nix matchup looks pretty dicey. Looks pretty endearing too. So we'll see
uh,
what happens.
well, I like Drake May. And
And the
you
Drake
know
May,
what?
yes.
The one thing I want to touch on is how bad, like we talk about the quarterbacks, the running back position in the NFL this year is just you do not know what you're getting week to week from a running back in the NFL. And
Who-
there is nobody in free agency outside of the kid from Tampa, Tucker. Like he had a big game. I've had Bucky Irving for a
Yeah,
while, and I like Bucky, but seeing Tucker get all those yards did hurt. But yeah, Sean Tucker's right there. Like
yeah.
it is not good if you need a running back in the fantasy season.
See, the trick is Matt Bushnell. You can't. I've learned. I know that fantasy football has been a weak spot for me for years. It's the one that I pay attention to the least. There's because you see me do baseball, and it's just like it's just printouts of spreadsheets upon spreadsheets, right? And then trying to see where the hell is it? Is it this thing? Anyway, um, so yeah, and then basketball, I just there's a trick to fantasy basketball as well, but it's all about opportunity, just like any sport. It's about opportunity. But with fantasy football, the trick is not looking for the guys who are starting now. It's looking for the guys who are starting later. If
Is that what it is?
Oh, my friend, I mean, you think okay, well, these two I drafted. That's just a given, right? I had to draft both Kenneth Walker the third and Najee Harris. Chase Brown, I definitely drafted, but everybody was giving me shit about him. Like, why would you do that? He's just a backup. And Zach Moss has the RB1 on lockdown. Really now? Okay. Well, Chase Brown is faster. He's more agile. He can catch the
Yep.
ball out of the backfield, supposedly. The Bengals love him. The coaching staff loves him. Joe Burrow loves him. Oh, well, he doesn't know how to block yet. Really? Really? That's gonna okay. I want to draft the best running back on each team. I don't give a damn about Zach Moss. I just know that Chase Brown fills out all the boxes. This is a draft choice. This is not a waiver wire guy.
Yeah. No,
Yeah,
I
well,
mean, it's a good pick. He just needs to hold on to the football.
well, so does Zach Moss apparently. Listen, I just saw an article from Bleacher Report saying trade for Chase Brown before it's too late. Like I'm here as a Chase Brown owner for both my teams. It's too late. You're not gonna get him off of me. Like I am down with Jalen Brown or with Chase Brown. Sorry, Jaleel McLaughlin. This is another drafted pick. This has not gone
Ah,
so well. All I need is
yeah,
for one of them to hit. Chase Brown hit for me. Braylon Allen. I had a feeling. I don't know. There's a everything about him says that if he was on any other team, he would be starting. But even with Brees Allen, wait, is that his name? Brees.
Brees Hall.
Sorry, Brees. Brees Hall. I like Brees Hall, but why did the Jets draft this guy from Wisconsin? Why did they do that?
Wisconsin. Short
Why?
yardage.
Yeah, well, F it. He's gonna be on my team. I actually started him a couple of games just because I was desperate at running back, and he's done pretty well.
Yeah,
Decent.
so Brace
Go.
Braylon Allen has point 0.8 points in my league, 3 carries, 8 yards.
Oh, look at this though. 18 points. And then he had
Yeah,
7 points. But then, then nothing happened. But again, you stash him because once Brees Hall goes down or once the Jets decide, hey, this Braylon Allen needs more touches, he's already on your team. You don't have to go through waiver wire fodder,
that is true. My
right?
God.
Right? I
Yeah,
mean,
Bills receivers.
that's why I don't draft those quarterbacks. Which receivers?
Just anybody on the Bills.
Oh, yeah. What, avoid or get?
Avoid, yeah,
Oh, yeah.
avoid them like the plague.
I wasn't getting any Bills anything this year. I was avoiding the Bills. And there's teams you got to avoid too.
Well,
You
Josh Allen's a top tier quarterback.
Okay, but then you're spending draft capital on a quarterback, which we don't do that here. Never.
We don't do.
No, well, what's the point? You just saw it's all about matchups anyway, and the Bills they're doing pretty well, and he will give you monster games, but it's I don't know. It's just to me, I'd rather stockpile running backs and wide receivers. And my bench is going to be full of guys who are stashes like Roshan Johnson, who I did not draft, but he was on my radar. I had a choice between Braylon Allen and Roshan Johnson. I picked Braylon Allen. And then Roshan Johnson started getting more touches with the Bears in game number 3, I believe. And
Yep.
I just said, okay, I better get him now before it's too late.
Yeah,
Jalen White, go ahead.
I'm a little disappointed in the Roshan Johnson touchdown poaching opportunity yesterday when they brought in Big Doug Kramer and DeAndre Swift came out of the huddle, and I was just like, no, because I started Roshan yesterday,
Yeah.
but yeah, I mean, I think running back is one of the always most volatile positions because, like, I'm going to use myself as an example here. I was fortunate enough to have CMC for a few years, and I kept him. And this year, now he has tendonitis in both of his Achilles.
That's not good.
That is terrible. And now it's just like he might be able to come back this year. If he can come back, maybe I can flip him for a draft pick that I'm going to need. But like, I don't know if he's a keeper quality. And, I think wide receiver wise, I have, my league is notorious for 3 wide receivers starting, 2 running backs, and a flex. It's kind of a perverted league.
No, I'm the same way in this league too. So you're not alone.
Yeah.
God, he's
But
awful.
I got Jamar Chase,
Damn
you
right you
know,
do.
that's right. And
Damn right.
I had CMC as my keeper. It's like, okay, I can build off of that. But CMC being hurt absolutely crippled my team. But now, like I tell you what, Xavier Worthy, like it's only going to go up with him. He's boom or bust, but when he booms, he's going to win you a game.
Yeah.
Probably a game that you shouldn't win. Yeah,
Yeah, I hope
but
you appreciate the name of my team here.
Chase on the case.
Yeah, well, I
Nothing
got
like a good
both.
Paw Patrol.
Yeah, Jamar, which Penny, my daughter, has fallen in love. She's going as Marshall this year.
Oh
The
wow,
Dalmatian. Yeah, she's really into Marshall. Rubble's my guy though.
Rubble.
Oh yeah, he's the great. He kind of reminds me of you, man. A little bit, just a little bit. Reminds me of you, just a bit.
Huh. Lunch pail guy.
That's right. Meat and potatoes.
Meat and potatoes. Dicka.
That guy, but guess Sayers. That's all you need, my friend. That's all you need. Yeah, I got both because I got both Jamar Chase and Chase Brown. Jamar Chase Brown, Chase on the case. There.
Chase
So
on the
that's
case.
and
Yeah, you
I'm in
got
the
Debo there. And I'll say this Julius Peppers.
the Julius Peppers division. Yeah.
That's right. So yeah, no, I kind of like that Debo Samuel. I think that is a very sneaky bounce back year from Debo as
Uh,
being a dominant wide receiver because Brandon Ayuk has been god awful for the 49ers.
well, you saw Peyton trash him earlier the year. That's why you gotta fix your contract before in training camp so you can make those reps and make those catches in the regular season. He was not happy, and you can see why Peyton Manning was one of the greatest quarterbacks of all time because
Oh yeah.
yeah, he's not taking that mess from anybody. Uh,
Well, I mean, once again, like Peyton fighting for money too. Like, is Peyton gonna take less money just to get to camp early? And I think the answer to that would probably be yeah, he probably would. He's a freaking nature there. But yeah, no, I like the Debo situation. I like Brock Bowers. I think for being in such a really bad situation, because let's just face it, Vegas is a hellhole right now. Like that is
it's
not a good
awful.
situation.
I'm all in on Vegas. Look, Devontae Adams, Zamir White. Oops.
Yeah, I read a story today where basically Mark Davis said he's not trading Devontae Adams unless they get a high draft pick for him. And you're not
Great.
the cap hit is just absolutely ridiculous. Like,
Fantastic.
yeah. And so Antonio Pierce, I think overall has disaster as a head coach. Um, Kind of
Which
a
is
nice story.
ironic, I was gonna say. Super ironic that you say that.
Yeah. I mean, to me, it felt like a makeup for the Rich Bisaccia situation when they fired Gruden and Bisaccia had to step in, and the
Mm,
Raiders went on a bit of a run there, and the players loved Bisaccia. Antonio Pierce, man, there's a lot of baggage there. Like if you live in Arizona, which I do, and you hear the Arizona State stories,
that's right.
like Herm Edwards got buried, but the biggest transgressions were on Antonio Pierce. And then you read about the bankruptcy story where Antonio Pierce and his wife owe $34 million to creditors. Look, it's unfair, but I'm a firm believer. If your personal life is a mess, your professional life is going to be a mess as well. And I think looking at Antonio Pierce, fair or not fair, there's a lot of baggage there. And as a head coach, you can't have baggage within your family because that takes away from your job. And Vegas, it just shows up week to week. Max Crosby pushing a coach. He can call it a love push and whatever else he wants to call it. I mean, these players are negative impact players. And I think what I mean by that is they don't add to the culture, they
Mm,
don't build the team, they drain the team of that spirit. And I'm going to gush about the Bears here and what Ryan Poles has done. Ryan Poles is going with character guys. He's not
yeah.
going to sacrifice the locker room for me guys. There was a couple of opportunities where they could have had somebody. They could have had Chase Young, but they wanted Montez Sweat.
Hmm.
And they decided Montez Sweat's the way they wanted to go.
I
And
was
then
shocked by
just,
that. Yeah.
yeah, I mean, Chase Young was the name,
Right,
but
right,
you
right.
take a look at it. Like Brock Bowers being a rookie and being able to produce in that situation with quarterback instability, a head coach that seems like he's losing a lot of stuff. Once you go on the podium and you tell your players, some people were making business decisions,
Yeah.
yeah, that's a bad situation.
So there's Brock Bowers and against a very tough Pittsburgh Steelers defense. 9 receptions for 71 yards. That's good for my league for 11 and a half points, 10 targets. Uh,
Yeah,
should be more. I mean, he got 12 against the Broncos. You just told me how tough their defense, their secondary is. 27
yeah.
big points against the Broncos. And of course, there's the peaks and valleys. There are the valley games. That's a tough Browns defense as well. But like you said, you gotta admire what he's done against 3 very tough defenses um in the last 3 weeks. And
And with
he's
the instability of that organization.
he's the only that's it. He's the only game in town. I mean that he's it.
Yeah,
Unless Hunter Renfro is still around or Jacoby Myers does something. I know they have another tight end, Michael Myers, but he's more of
yeah.
a blocking. They have no running backs. They have 2 veteran running backs. which no, don't.
I think, you look at the situation and like you got rid of Derek Carr for this,
Yeah,
like
yeah,
for this. Like, granted, Derek Carr has his limitations, but this is the shits, man. Like, I don't know where they turn around. They're going to have to draft a quarterback. It's going to happen. I don't love this draft for quarterbacks, but as you see, sometimes it turns out well for them. But like, there's teams I just stay away from when it comes to fantasy production. Like Carolina is one of them. I don't love anything on Carolina. I prefer not to draft them. I know I used to be a big proponent of touches equals opportunities, but there's some teams, man, you just don't see it. Like Chase Brown has opportunities, and those are good touches, and those are good opportunities. I like Wendell Robinson on your team. I think that's a sneaky, decent wide receiver.
yeah,
He's going to get a lot of the tough first downs in the slot,
yeah,
but you got your boom guys. Like I think Malik Neighbors is a stud. Like
yeah,
the kid's just going to be really good in the NFL. I don't love um, the Terry Wicks situation. I know he's questionable, and I'm just taking a look at him on your team.
yeah.
Like,
Go ahead. I'm sorry. I have thoughts on
well,
that too.
no,
Go ahead.
it's just hard when you are the fourth or fifth option. You got, was it Tucker Kraft? You
Yeah.
got Jalen Reed
Mm-hmm.
or Jaden Reed, who's,
Jaden Reed. Yeah.
yeah, he's emerging as a number one wide receiver. You got Romeo Dobbs, who's excellent, and he's done throwing his little temper tantrum. And
Right.
then you got Christian Watson.
Yep.
So at best, he's always going to be a fifth option, I think, in this offense.
Yeah. And a lot of it stems from this game right here against the Vikings. Like that's a tough defense, scoring 2 touchdowns, 13 big targets for 21 and a half points week 4. And then with the Rams, only 2 receptions, but again, 7 targets. Like, okay, he's the fourth. I understand. I understand the situation in Green Bay. That's why I avoided a lot of the pack. I like the Packers receiving core, but who the hell is the correct Packers receiver to draft? It's nobody, in my opinion. So I avoided them
Yeah,
because I don't know who it is. But then I saw Tavian Wicks available and he scored 21 and a half big points. Like I got to have him. And of
gotta
course,
have him, but
he got injured in this game against the Cardinals, it looks like. So now I'm in a
yeah,
pickle. Like, do I wait until he gets healthy, or do I just cut my losses and see if I can get one of these upside running backs, which they're available there, Matt Bush? No, they're available. There's a lot of good running backs. I'm not that are available in my league right now. Um,
it,
but again, it's about, and I'll finish with this. It's really the more people realize that this is not, it's not about, oh, there's nobody at running back. The running back is such a hellhole. There's no running backs to be picking up a waiver. But what you got to do is you got to look at who is available, not available, sorry, who's the next man up on some of these teams. Like, for example, James Conner. Is that the guy's name from the Cardinals?
yeah, I
That's a guy I avoid all the time. All the time I avoid that guy, and I always get proven wrong. But this year I was heavy on Trey Benson. Didn't work out, but I'm
yeah.
still hoping for one day the James Conner is gonna get hurt, and then it's gonna be Trey Benson time. And if it's not Trey Benson time, then it's gonna be Amari DeMarcado time, which that's the way you do it. You gotta pick one and hope. Well, not hope.
Well,
That's a terrible thing to hope for, but it's gonna happen. It's football. Go ahead.
yeah, well, Ray Davis is emerging tonight. He's having a big game for the Bills, so that's going to be a hot name. And I know some people drafted him and stashed him.
Yeah.
I like Jeremy McNichols. The
Yeah.
problem with Jeremy McNichols is he's got two studs in front of him,
Yeah.
and that's the problem. It's just like, but Brian Robinson was hurt, so and you see that he only got what, two touches, two
2
opportunities.
touches. Yep.
Maybe he got hurt. I don't know, but I don't know. He's healthy and ready to go.
Let's see. McNichols took 2 carries for 9 yards.
It just, you don't love to
McNichols
see that.
because Alson Eckler and then Brian Robinson were limited absent due to injuries. Robinson missed Sunday's game in Baltimore, but the Commanders didn't attempt many rushes against a stout run defense, and McNichols finished without a target despite playing 39. I mean, that's the only point to have Jeremy McNichols is to dump it off or do
Yep.
screenplays with this guy. That he's a pass catching machine,
Yep. They didn't
and
do it.
they didn't do it. And that I don't know, that speaks more towards Jaden McDaniels or the Commanders' offense, but yeah, that this would have been the time to take advantage of that, and they didn't do it. So that's a problem. But yeah, with guys like Jeremy McNichols, you got to kind of temper expectations with him.
Yeah.
He's primarily pass catching out of the backfield.
Yeah, and I don't disagree with your take on the running backs. I think Sean Tucker is going to be a hot pickup because of a big game.
Oh
That's
yeah,
the instant reaction. I think that one's a little tricky,
it
and
is. Yeah,
I think you have to have Bucky Irvin and Sean Tucker to capitalize off this situation
yeah.
because they are gonna do you have to do the old school handcuff? You got to handcuff those running backs and make sure you get both the points because they really utilize both of them. Bucky's more of the receiving threat, where it looks like Sean Tucker is going to be the more on the ground threat. But I think to your point, New Orleans rush defense was non-existent. Like it was just really bad on Sunday. So
Sorry, I'm
I,
trying to go ahead.
yeah, I just in my league, like there was guys I wanted, and people would just pick them up before I could get them. And the one thing that bothers me is like I'm always in the middle of the waiver wire, and it's
Yeah.
always one or two guys, and the one guy that's always in front of me for the most part that grabs the guys I want is our friend Ricky Velasquez, greatest guy in the world. I love Ricky, but it's like Jesus, man, stop taking my dudes. Like, throw me a bone here. I don't got anything at running back, and he's hoarding them.
Because you got to do it that way. I mean, how many running backs do I have hoarded? One, two, three, four, four running backs on my bench, including Jalen Wright, who might be better than anybody on that Dolphins
Let
committee.
me see, because I know I have limited the bench players. Let me see how many bench players we're allowed. One, two, three, four, five. So we only get five bench players.
Damn, that's very evil of you, man. That's seven,
Well,
five.
you're not hoarding guys in my league, damn it.
Okay, so in that situation, you are in trouble. But I mean, in this league of mine, you got some guys: Ty Chandler, Trey Benson, Blake Corum, who was supposedly the next man in line. I actually drafted Blake Corum in my other league, just because I kept hearing that, yeah, Kyrie Williams is not long for
Yeah,
this world. Blake Corum is the next man up, and Blake Corum hasn't done anything for this team.
yeah,
Uh, but if you want to play the long game, speculative pick. Blake Corum for the Rams is the guy to get. I don't know who this Ty Johnson guy is, but I guess from what you're telling me, it doesn't matter because they're
yeah.
going with Ray Davis. Marshawn Lloyd is an interesting name I kept hearing all offseason. He's available. Might be a guy you might want to just stash for the long term. I don't know when this guy's supposed to come back, but I swear everybody was talking, like a lot of podcasts, a lot of fantasy football articles were talking huge about Marshawn Lloyd. Kendre Miller might be a guy. Again, that's another stash pick. Like in case of fire, you're obviously waiting for an Alvin Kamara injury to happen. So it's kind of sad, but it is what it is. Dare Ogunbowale, uh, I believe he's related to Arike Ogunbowale, the WNBA shooting guard. Yeah, he had 15 carries against the Bills and guy 11 points, 12 points the day before the game before against the Jaguars. And then Joe Mixon came back, so it was all moot. But that's one option in case you're
Not
looking
a good
for
one.
just in case you're looking for one. And yeah, it goes on and on and on and on and on. So with that being said, yes, it is tough, but if you look for those long speculative picks, I think that is a much better use of waiver wire than looking for, shoot, I need a running back. Who's available? Crap, there's nobody available. I'm screwed. Take the hit this week and then pick a guy who might be useful in maybe a week, 2, 3 weeks from now. At
Yeah.
least that's my strategy. I mean, based on my roster here. And just to show how consistent I am, even on my losing team, the 1-5 team. it's kind of the same strategy I have here. As long as the stupid thing loads, geez, man, what do I pay all this money for? Oh my God, so slow. I got Trey Sermon. He did very well last week, did very bad this week. That was, but he was projected to get 10.4 points because Jonathan Taylor's out. So this is what we're talking about. Well, you stash a guy like Trey Sermon with the idea that Jonathan Taylor's going to get hurt or he may not be available to play.
Yeah.
What else? Or Rashad White has been a nightmare. So yeah, I this is the league where I drafted both Rashad White and Isaiah Pacheco back to back. So
Oh man.
that's how I made the playoffs last year. Like, let's run it back, guys. Let's run it back. And I was clearly trying to do something different in this league than what I was doing in the other league, including, getting those running backs, including getting a quarterback, a high caliber quarterback that everybody keeps telling me about. So, and this is what happens when I do what everybody else does. This is the mess I put myself into. But Rashad White, I always figured, well, if he can run the ball between the tackles, I know he can catch the ball out of the backfield. He can't do that either, apparently. Zach Charbonnet was a good player to have when Kenny Walker was down. He actually
Yep.
stepped up, but let's face it, in Seattle, they're not messing around. It's the Kenny Walker show.
Yep.
Again, this is going to be a recurring theme. Both Braylon Allen and Rashawn Johnson are on this team as well. And
Just
I was
hoping for
able to,
touchdown poaching.
yeah, that's all I can hope for at this point. And then there's Tank Bigsby. Oh, and Nick Chubb might be back next week.
Yeah,
Yay.
well, Travis Etienne left yesterday's game
I
with
saw
some
that.
sort of injury. So Tank Bigsby might be a nice player to roll out there for a few weeks, depending on what that injury is going to be.
And he's done pretty damn well the last 3 weeks. Nothing sexy about him. He's a traditional rough and tumble. I mean, the guy's name's Tank. There's a reason for that.
Frank the Tank.
Just up down the middle, and if he's gonna get all these touches, I mean, let's go with it. I might have no choice but to start him next week because I have no other running back. I'm still kind of waiting for all these other guys to step up. I've gone 0-5 before and won championships. I mean, I scored 155 points last week, so this not a fluke. I have the highest points total in this stupid league that I'm in. So that's not a fluke either. So there's just some disconnect here. Maybe it's the running back situation. I don't know. Wide receiver looks pretty good, although DJ Moore kind of underwhelmed this past week, but that's okay. It's more dependable than not. Maybe if I get Justin Jefferson next week, I'm back in the playoff hunt. But yeah, every game I lose now, the margin of error goes smaller and smaller. So anyway, enough about my team. Where's your team at? We're talking about my team. Like, who's your tight end?
Dalton Kincaid.
Oh, I'm sorry to hear that.
Yeah, I mean it's been a adventure to say the least. Yeah, I went young this year. I think for a lot of my guys, you know, Lad McConkey, starting wide receiver, Xavier Worthy, starting wide receiver.
Yep.
Um, I kind of went with the blast from the past. Darnell Mooney, who I thought has been one of Kirk Cousins' favorite targets, didn't have a great game this past week, but I think Darnell Mooney is a very sneaky, really solid number two for a very, high profile Falcons passing attack.
I was
Yeah,
getting him in a lot of my mock drafts at the
yeah.
very latter ends of the drafts. Some
His
reason I didn't get him in any of my leagues, but yeah, that's a if you got him late, that is a very good pick.
it just didn't make sense for him to be out there sitting so late. I think the big thing was they didn't know between Kyle Pitts and Drake London, but I think I saw a Twitter post and it was pretty wrong. But someone said looks like Darnell Mooney finally recovered from that injury he suffered in Chicago, and then someone replied with a picture of Justin Fields labeled "the injury in Chicago." So it's just kind of like, oh my God, you didn't do that.
Yeah.
So
I mean, it's the epitome of boom and bust, but when he booms, oh my God, 26.5 points, 18.5 points against Eagles team, double digits against the Chiefs. Of course, there's the downfall because it's a deep threat, right? This is the deep threat for the Falcons. So there's
yeah,
going to be a lot of busts too. Like, I think I heard somebody compare him to Deshaun Jackson back in the day, where you were going to get
probably
some
not as explosive,
not as
but yeah,
explosive, but pretty darn close. Deshaun Jackson like then, okay? But yeah,
yeah.
for every 20-point game that Deshaun Jackson would give you, he'd come back the next week like with like this, 4 points, 5 points, 6 points. Like, damn, what happened to the 20 points from last week? It's just not the right matchup, my friend. Not the right matchup this week. So, who was your quarterback to go with this year?
I drafted Justin Herbert and Justin Fields.
Ah, that's right. How is Fields doing? I know he's been the
He-
bee's knees lately, but I haven't really had a chance to check it out with a
Not great,
microscope.
but he's had some really good games.
Jeez, man. Even in this, well, I do punish. I kind of took what you did in our league from before, where I punished quarterbacks a little bit for being inconsistent or turnover,
Yeah,
but you should still get rewarded heavily for those yards that you rush with your legs. But yeah, look, 8 points week one, 9 points week two. Oh, okay. Then he starts exploding and against the Chargers, the Colts, the Cowboys, and the Raiders. Okay, so he's been doing very well lately. He's uh oh wow, 131 yards here, 145 yards there.
yeah,
Okay.
yeah. I mean,
Mixed bag of things.
yeah. I think what you get from Fields really is you want the rushing aspect for the touchdowns. Like he's got 5 rushing touchdowns on the year, which he's always going to be in the top 12 quarterback range, I think, in fantasy, just because of the rushing aspect.
Right.
I don't think you want him to be your starting quarterback for your franchise, but you definitely want him to be your starting quarterback for fantasy if he's playing.
Yeah. I agree with
Um,
that. Yeah.
yeah, and then Justin Herbert's been an unmitigated disaster just because of how I don't want to say he's been a disaster, but it's just
No, it's
you're not getting the
disastrous.
boom.
No,
Yeah,
you're right. It's disastrous. He's not even getting the chance. I mean, I, I wanted to believe that Jim Harbaugh would come to his senses
yeah,
and take advantage. Because, yeah, you could talk about we want to run the ball, we want to establish the run and, you know, do whatever. But in the end, you kind of have to, the good coaches, I think you understand where I'm going with this. The good coaches tailor their system around the talent that's around them, not the
yep,
other way around.
yeah,
Here, it
and
looks like they're doing it the other way around. Go ahead.
well, you take a look at Harbaugh's MO, and you're just kind of like, man, like you could kind of see this coming. I will say this in Herbert's defense, in Harbaugh's defense, Herbert really hasn't been fully healthy this year. You know,
True.
he's
Yes.
he's had ankle injuries. I think there's some other stuff going on with him that I can't think off the top of my head, but you know, maybe it changes a little bit, as the year progresses. Um, I'll say this: a really sneaky player this year that's been really good for me is Rashid Shaheed.
Yes. The Saints.
Yes, just like another one of those boom or bust guys, but he really makes a difference. So I think what's hurt me the most this year with my fantasy team, this team was designed for CMC and Jamar Chase to be my steady, like big point guys.
Right.
And when CMC just falls on injured reserve for the majority of the year, you just like I'm trying to make it up as I go, and it's hard to do because like a guy like Xavier Worthy, like he can turn it on. He's had some really good games, and then there's some games where you're just like, okay, Xavier Worthy, where are you? I'm looking for you. Rashid Shaheed. Philadelphia didn't start. Atlanta wasn't a great game for him. He did okay, depending on what your PPR is.
Right.
Kansas City, he showed up. This past game, I don't think that it gets counted, but he had a punt return for a touchdown. But what bothers me about the Tampa game, he had 7 targets and one
Oof.
reception.
Oof. Yeah, that's it's a Spencer Rattler problem, it sounds like.
Yes. Yeah.
So
And so now you're dealing with, okay, are they going to be able to utilize these weapons? And with Chris Olave hurt, and now Rashid is questionable, I think. I know he got hurt, and they don't
right.
know what's going on with him. There's just a ton of question marks around Shaheed. Darnell Mooney, like we talked about, boom or bust.
Mhm.
When he gets going, he's really going to go. Xavier Worthy, when he gets going, he's really going to go. Like, I think last week I scored 170 points.
Yeah.
This week I'm sitting at 120.
That sounds like my team.
Yeah, it's just like it. I got the yo-yo effect. Like right
Yeah.
now, I think I'm probably going to end up losing my matchup, and I'm going to lose it by like 2 points.
Oof.
And it's just, it goes with the territory. You live by some of these guys. I started Cairo Santos instead of the kid from Detroit. I forgot who's the kicker for Detroit.
Oh,
Um,
I don't know, man. They all look the same to me, bro.
yeah, like kickers. Like,
Kick,
oh,
interchangeable, except for Young
yeah.
Ho. Uh,
So, yeah, Bates for Detroit, Jake Bates had 19 points. I
mm,
start Bates, who had 19 points, instead of Cairo Santos, who only had four. I win this game going away. But that's the story of fantasy football.
yeah,
You see, and yes, CMC. Like, I don't know if he's coming back this year.
I gotta ask you, man. If you have the number one pick overall, let's say it's a fresh new league, right? Nothing to do with keepers or dynasty. It's a redraft league. Coming into the
Redraft league.
2020 redraft league 2024, you're drafting in August, right? Getting ready for September. You have the number one pick overall. Do you still draft Christian McCaffrey? Even not knowing the injury stuff, right? Take
Is that
yourself back to August of 2024. Is Christian McCaffrey still your number one guy?
yes?
Not for me, man. Like, I know you could say, well, that's because of hindsight. No, I had three guys in mind. If I ever get the number one pick overall, three guys in mind. Justin Jefferson, Jamar Chase, CD Lamb. That's it. I'm not taking any chances on these running backs anymore. Now, I don't
I
care about
don't.
Jonathan Taylor, not I care about Brees Hall, even Bijan Robinson. If I'm going to get a running back, it's going to be Bijan Robinson in the first round. And that's a mistake too, apparently. But
Yeah,
those are the three guys. Jamar, and I got both Jefferson and Chase on two different leagues. So I practice what I preach. And ironically enough, Matt Bushnell, those guys were on the second half of the first round. Those guys are second half first round picks. They landed on me. They dropped to me. So I'm happy with that. But if I had the number one pick coming in August of 2024, I'm not drafting Christian McCaffrey. Jefferson, Chase, or Lamb till the cows come home.
I think the biggest problem with that is you have to factor in what league are you playing in, and what I mean by that
I
is
don't care.
PPR.
I know.
Well,
I don't care.
if you're not doing a PPR league, there's no way you draft anybody before CMC.
Why? But it's I know that it's blasphemous, but even if it was a standard league where there is no PPR, half PPR, full PPR, none of that, I'm sorry. I'm gonna get the guys who I know have a better chance of playing the entire season than a running back who's already been on borrowed time for the last 2 or 3 years. And okay, we'll draft the next best running back. What, Brees Hall? Who's the other one? Bijan
Mm,
Robinson? Who's the other one? I'm missing one.
I
Jonathan
know
Taylor.
Bijan was well, yeah, yeah. I mean
And
that's
him and his skimpy ankles. Like, no, man.
Gimpy ankles.
I mean,
That's going to be his
no.
new nickname.
I mean, it's always something with Jonathan Taylor. He
Yeah.
was a holdout last year. Okay, I don't know what happened if he got paid or not, but oh yeah, now's the year to draft him with confidence. Like, no, I don't think so.
No,
I'm not getting him. These running backs, they don't last, and it goes back to like there's a curse on these first pick overalls where you can't trust those guys. You could trust the wide receiver. I know I do. Justin Jefferson,
I
Jamar
would.
Chase, and CD Lamb in that order.
Well, it goes back to I so I always do either like 0.75 or full point PPR. All right,
Hmm.
and in these leagues, I would much rather have either the 11th or 12th pick in the first round because I do prefer the snake to come back around and get another guy. The pressure, and I don't even want to call it pressure, but the mindset of the number one pick. A lot of people look at it like, what is the thinnest position on the football field for fantasy football? It's always running back. Like
Hmm.
running back always comes up, and you're like, okay, I got to draft somebody that can give me consistent points from a position that's thin. That's why we saw Travis Kelce go so early in drafts for a long time because by far he's one of the better tight ends in all of football. I mean, we could go way back. Antonio Gates was drafted in the first round, and that's going way back to like 2008, 2007 ish. when you had those supercharger teams with LaDainian Tomlinson. And I think you can make the same case for Rob Gronkowski. Gronkowski would go in the first round in the mid 2010s. So a lot of people get themselves in trouble, and I give credit to you for going with like I don't care if wide receiver is loaded. I'm going to get me the best wide receiver I can get, and that's commendable. Whether it wins leagues or not, I can't pass up a running back. At the end of the day, I'm like, okay, I need to make sure I have my running back, you know, my running back position situated. And that's why I go CMC because within that offense, in theory, with the 49ers offense, you can't put eight in the box. You're just never going to be able to put eight in the box against that team. So now you're stuck trying to figure out, oh boy, Aaron Rodgers intercepted to end the game.
Yeah, of course he did. It's the coach's
Yeah.
fault. They better fire Robert Saleh again just to make themselves feel better about themselves.
Nathaniel Hackett's gone.
Oh, well, he's been demoted already, so what difference does it make? I mean, he saved his best friend from getting fired. And what was that? What was it all for?
Yeah.
Oops.
But
Yeah, Christian
but
McCaffrey. Yeah. I mean, yeah, the team aspect is correct. That's a loaded team, and he's an integral part. But I go back to, but yeah, there's a lot of mileage on those legs. There's a lot of mileage. There's already a lot of injuries. You know.
well, do me a favor. What round was David Montgomery drafted in your draft?
Yeah. Hold on. The sixth round.
Sixth round, David
Could
Montgomery.
You could have waited. Could have waited for running back then.
Let's pull up. Let's just see what he's done because I know he destroyed it last week. Like just absolutely went
Yeah.
bonkers
Well,
against the Cowboys.
the Lions are doing a pretty good job of mixing and matching the running backs. Yeah, double digits every week.
Yeah, look at that.
Double digits. So you could have waited till sixth round for your first running
Yep.
back. You could have established your wide receiver core. And actually, yeah, you could have actually who oh yeah, this guy, yeah, this Noah Miller. He's actually doing pretty well this year. He got and you would have gotten your tight end already. How's George Kittle doing? I think he scored a
Not
touchdown last week. Yeah,
yeah.
double digits, yeah.
Not,
Double digits every
not
week
for
except
you,
for week one.
Kittle. I'm sorry. Those little Caesar commercials. Just yeah.
But
It's like
yeah,
a parasite in your brain. But what? So Jameer Gibbs was drafted in the second round, right? Well, what's he
there
doing
he
for
is.
Detroit?
Jameer Gibbs going to my friend Harry's team over there. He's a big Jets fan. Oh, awkward.
Hmm.
They're like I said, they're doing a good double digits for the first four games, and then almost double digits against the Cowboys. 12
Yeah.
carries, three receptions, but they're doing a good job of mixing and matching the running back situation. They got the thunder and lightning effect going over there.
Yep.
And maybe it still might have been too early for Jameer Gibbs. There's a reason I didn't draft him. I mean, I went with Debo Samuel instead, knowing damn well I need running backs. Like, nah, I'm good with the Debo and Jamar Chase combination. I'll take that every single damn year if I could. Thank you very much. Don't give me this shit. But then look, so McCaffrey hurt, Bijan Robinson ineffective. Although depends on your definition of ineffective because he too has done double digits. Oh, but then he had that but see, we want more of this 23 and a half output every single week,
But
right?
yeah,
We
but
don't
you
want
get eight
these
and eight
eight.
and a half.
We don't want that from a first round pick, right?
No.
So, but okay, so he's been kind of a disappointment. Brees Hall, I guess we can now see what he has done today. As the okay, so they're back to just giving him the rock. So he's finally showing up, but he was showing up in the first four games. Disappeared against like we just mentioned, a tough Broncos defense and a tough Vikings defense.
Yep.
But he's okay. I guess he's worth it. He's worth it. Is he number one pick overall worth it? Not in my book. CeeDee Lamb. Well, we know about CeeDee. Amon-Ra St. Brown. I mean, safe floor guy. Justin Jefferson, definitely a guy with a. Well, I'm sorry, I'm looking at running backs. Jonathan Taylor hurt. What's he? What's he done? Oh, okay, double digits. So maybe I'm wrong. Maybe there is a thing about these running backs, but he's missing in action. Again, I know this because I picked up Trey Sermon and I inserted him into my running back starting.
Kyron
Well,
Williams is having a good year, man.
yeah, that's a guy I avoided him like the plague. But how's he doing? Yep. It's like,
Yeah.
yeah, they're feeding him the rock. So
Yep.
yes. So maybe there is a reason why people draft running backs. Not for me though. I rather
Well,
Jamar Chase and Demo Samuel is just a much better floor, and you still get the upside, and you get running backs later. Go ahead.
yeah, the Marvin Harrison pick always like makes me scratch my head. Like, if you're doing a redraft year every year, there's no reason you draft this guy in the first round or the second round or the third or the fourth. Like, he's probably wide receiver 30 something for me, and that can tank your season for a second round pick. That,
Yes.
you got to come over a lot to make up for that.
Yeah,
Like,
especially
yeah.
with so many established players still available.
See, but Patrick Mahomes in the second round. Like, I don't want to trash anybody in your league, but like, drafting a quarterback in the second round is a death sentence. Like,
I don't know. I don't endorse that. So this it wasn't on me. I didn't tell people to draft a quarterback in the second round.
you put yourself in a position where you're not going to be very successful.
Look who drafted him. You know that name.
Oh, poor Robert. Oh,
Yeah,
boy.
our commissioner from the Mardi Gras League, Robert
I mean,
Edmondson.
he's 3-2, so you
Yeah,
know what,
what do I know? I don't know anything.
right?
I just told you not to draft running backs in the first two rounds, and I was proven wrong. So I'm still happy with Jamar Chase and Deebo Samuel. I'd take that in a heartbeat every single year if I could. Um, but yeah, it's a tough one. But like I said, I'm gun ho about it. If I have the number one pick overall this year, I already made up my mind. Jefferson, Chase, or CD Lamb. That's it. That's it. I'm not drafting running backs until later.
Let me see what. Oh my God, Travis Kelce in the third round. Oh boy,
He's done better, you know.
don't pull that stuff up.
But this is mid-level. This is what the 12th best tight end in the league does, 11 and a half points on back-to-back weeks, right? That's good.
Coulda, yeah, he could have done different things there, but I love the Lamar Jackson pick in the third round. To me, that's sellable. You can sell me on Lamar in the third round.
Yeah.
Um, God, Devin Ochnay has been absolutely terrible.
Yeah, the Dolphins running back. Yeah, I had a
Yeah,
feeling about him like, not this year. This
yeah,
looks much better than Kyler Murray's stat line. I can tell you that
yeah,
for
just a
Lamar
little.
Jackson, just a bit. Yeah, but Devon Achane, there's a few things that were going wrong with that team. Too many running backs. He
Yep.
was the smaller of all the running backs, it seemed like.
Yeah.
And I just think he's not a primary running back. I think he's more of a change of speed type of person.
I,
Uh, yeah, I
I
mean,
got to ask, how the how in the flying flim flamsicle is Nico Collins in the third round? Like, that's a first round wide receiver just based off what he did last year. Granted,
I
he's hurt now, but Jesus Christ,
he's doing very well this year. I think the problem there
yeah,
is that the
last
Texans
year.
have a lot of weapons. I mean, Joe Mixon and his teammate went the previous round, and they still have Stephon Diggs and the other wide receiver, Tank Dell, was it?
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I get it, but
But then
man,
Jalen Waddle went a pick before that. You know, I mean, Jalen
before
Waddle
Nico got, yeah, before Nico got hurt, man, he was on pace to break the yards and reception record.
and then Drake London. That's a bad pick.
I don't
That
know. Let's see what Drake's done this year. I think it's better than what you may think.
I still have a bad take. Okay, so yeah, it's been pretty good, but there's 2 point game, a 9 point game. So yeah,
Yeah,
okay, never mind. Nico Collins is still doing better than him though.
yeah, yeah. No, I mean, I would say Nico Collins up until his injury. Oh boy, this one's going to get ugly.
Chris Olave,
Yeah,
no,
that has not been good.
yeah, the 3 games in the middle there, double digits, and then 2 pointers that bookend those double digit scores, and then negative 3 points against the Buccaneers. Very rarely do I see negative 3 points from a wide receiver. Running backs, yes. Quarterbacks, definitely. not wide receivers. So
Not wide
uh,
receivers, man.
where did he go to college? This guy, Chris Olave.
Ohio State.
Well, that explains it. Yeah, you can't trust any Ohio State players.
Oh
And
yeah, yeah. Never draft Ohio State wide receivers.
Marvin Harrison as well. No, man. Why draft Marvin Harrison when you can get Devo Samuel? She.
I mean, I would have never drafted Marvin Harrison in the second round.
Yeah,
That's
but that's the price you pay for that type of player. You know, that's
what's
that
his overall points like. And I want to compare it to a Doomsday and see where a Doomsday was drafted at.
uh
So
well
eleven point one,
he's averaging 11.1 and
but
then
that was
what?
just because of one game where he put up 35.
Shit, that's the reason you draft him, right? Odunze went in the eighth round.
Okay,
God, I wanted him, but no, let's get Trey Benson.
six
Dunze
point
at
three.
6.3, but no, I touch says that he should be better, that he's improving every week. Let's see if that's the case. If it translates to production. It does not, but like I always
Well, I
tell,
mean that
oh, wait, hold on. I always tell people this, Matt Bushnell, Rome was not built in one day, and neither will this guy. So you got to be patient.
you got to be patient, but at the end of the day, Bills won 23-20.
Awesome.
That's a shame. But yeah, no, I think you draft Marvin Harrison that high, and like you got Deontay Johnson, who I would venture to guess was drafted in round seven, is probably having a better year than Marvin Harrison Jr.
10.6
But
average points.
yeah,
No, I mean he plays on a bad team, this guy does. But again, like you mentioned, yeah, three double-digit points,
yeah,
but then they're met by three Valley games, including one tough loss against the Bears, our beloved Bears. The Chargers was a tough defense to play against. But on the high scoring affair games like Las Vegas, Cincinnati, Atlanta. I mean, when I say the high scoring, potential high scoring games, because the Raiders
it,
suck.
it,
The
yeah,
Bengals can't
it's
stop
more
anyone.
evened out.
Yeah, it's more spread out. And then he has
What
a
about Worthy?
juicy lineup against the Commanders, and I'm pretty sure he's going to drop an egg against the Broncos too, because of all
Oh
the
yeah,
reasons that we talked about.
yeah, Denver's pretty good.
Worthy, let's see, 11.2. So there's your value,
Yeah.
11.2, and then, but again, it's boom or bust. It's a high scoring affair against the Ravens. And then this is the opposite of what Deontay Johnson did against the Bengals and the Falcons. But that's the problem with Worthy, and that's the problem with with any Chiefs wide receiver. What I've
Yeah.
noticed in the last couple of years, if you're not Travis Kelce, Mahomes does not have a preference.
Well, Rashee Rice is out for the year.
And Rashee Rice is out for the year, so you would think that Xavier Worthy would just run with the ball, which technically he
Well,
did against a very tough Chargers defense,
I
and a
mean,
respectable 9.5
yeah,
against the
I mean,
Saints.
there's going to be things where, they're going to, they got a bye week at the right time. But yeah, I think you're going to see Travis Kelce have an uptick in points, and you're going to see Xavier Worthy have more chances as well. But I mean, I'll say this, like for those Samaje Perine guys that picked him up, it looks like Kareem Hunt's the dude.
That's ironic. That is so
Yeah.
crazy to think. But aside from that, I mean, I don't know what else I was looking for. Yeah, so I had my three-headed monster at wide receiver, Jamar Chase, Deebo Samuel, Devontae Adams, and then I go, oh crap, I need running backs, Zamir White, Najee Harris, and yeah, just striking out on all these running backs when I had a chance to get David Montgomery, Aaron Jones. But
Well, I mean, Aaron Jones has been hit and miss. I don't think he's.
yeah,
But Brian Robinson, that's a pretty big miss, man.
yeah, I know. I never trusted him.
You're gonna have to
Although
start trusting him.
I might not have a choice. Najee Harris, he scored 100, he gained 100 yards last week against the Raiders. So there you go, 18 points. Other than that, he's just been ordinary.
Yeah,
Najee Harris. So yeah, tough pill to swallow there. Um,
yeah. Brian Robinson's been excellent until he got hurt.
yeah, yeah. But no, never been a big fan of him. Never been a big fan of his. But yeah, and then my dumbass DeAndre Hopkins thinking that I may get one more year out of him, one more good season. And I think I got one good week of him, and everything else has been bad. I don't think it's his fault though. A lot of it is Will Levis just being putrid out
Uh,
there.
yeah, I mean, you talk about not having an NFL quarterback thrown to you. That's a prime example.
And it's only going to get tougher for this poor guy. Bills, although I think the Bills, you might make a case that they're not that strong on defense, but I'm pretty sure they're going to do a better job of playing keep the ball away from the Titans better than the Titans can do it against the Bills. Tough game against Detroit coming up. The Patriots, they stink, but so do the
Yeah,
Titans. Chargers, that's going to be tough. The Vikings are going to be tough. The Texans going to be tough. Yeah. Why did I draft DeAndre Hopkins? That's the $1 million question there. As I missed out on guys like Roma Dunze, Jaden Reed. What's Jaden Reed been up to?
so he's been pretty damn good.
Pretty damn good. And again, I was afraid. I didn't know what to make of the Packers receiving core. So
I,
I
I I think Jordan Love really likes him as a security blanket,
Jaden
and
Reed.
yeah, Jaden Reed does a lot of the dirty work, but he runs really sick routes.
Ugh, it's
That guy,
just
the
Javante
Denver.
Williams, man. What the hell? This is the reason that Jaleel McLaughlin doesn't get any touches because of this guy, this freaking bum here.
Yeah, well, that's what happens
Unbelievable.
when you got a Sean Payton offense. Oh God, Kyle Pitts.
Been
He,
doing better lately. Not the what is it, eighth round. So what, tight end number 5 or 6, maybe 7.
if he's tight end number 5 or 6, man, that's an indictment on the tight end position. Like, where's Cole Kmet? Where'd
Uh,
Cole Kmet get
oh,
drafted?
he went super late. I was hoping to get him. If I was gonna get two tight ends, it would have been Cole Kmet would have been one of those guys. Let's see here. Okay, this is not a
Why don't you
okay.
just
And
swing Kmet?
Njoku and Ingram went ahead of Kyle Pitts in the 7th round.
I mean, Ingram has been a solid tight end for a long time in
Yeah,
fantasy.
yeah, but
He's been hurt.
he's been hurt. Yeah. Kelsey went number 1. Laporta went number 2. Andrews went number 3. I'm just laughing at these guys. Like, why would you draft a tight end so early? 4 was Kittle. That's a good one. Trey McBride at number 5. I believe he's doing well. I don't remember. Kincaid at 6. Ingram and Joku 7 and 8. Okay, Kyle Pitts number 9. Wow. Kyle Pitts was going like in the top 6 in tight ends in a lot of my mock
Mm,
drafts,
yeah.
but I don't care. You know why I don't care? Because here's my tight end. Why draft a tight end in the 8th round when you can get one in the 10th? That's by my MO since forever. And there
But
he is,
you
Brock
drafted
Bowers.
Bowers over Komet. Like, I still don't see Komet.
No, Komet was going super late in a lot of drafts, if he was drafted at all. And this one, I think the problem is that we have so many Bears
There
fans.
he is.
Yeah, I was hoping to get him super late. Yeah, he went to the Bears fan, Noah Miller, who
Let's
lives
see
in
what
Las
he's done
Vegas.
this year.
Komet. Oh, I had
Yeah.
high hopes for him, for Cole Komet, because what's the best friend for a rookie quarterback? A tight end,
Tight end.
even one's from Notre Dame. 20 points against the Colts, 21.5 points against the Jaguars. Not the sexiest of points totals, but the potential is there.
Oh, yeah.
And and Komet, you know, he's a pretty darn good safety blanket. It doesn't show up in the box score, but at this point, I mean, here's my point. Komet, round 14. Dalton Schultz for the Texans. He went in the 13th round. What has he done? I bet nothing for nobody. Yeah, these are golf scores. The highest point total for who's it? Dalton Schultz is 5 points. Here's another tight end I was high on, Pat Freiermuth. Come on,
Oh,
if anybody
Fryermuth? Oh, God.
Freiermuth, whatever the hell his name is, if anyone's gonna take advantage of a Pat Freiermuth, it's gonna be Justin Fields, right? Because
No.
that guy, he needs this big target, right? Okay, one good game against the Colts. Everything else has been. You're not getting 20 points for Pat Freiermuth. You are going to get 20 points from Cole Kmet. I bet you he has at least 2 more games of 20-point production. Cole
Oh,
Kmet does.
I bet Mets performances start evening out, especially when they play these better teams. Like, I mean, the Commanders don't really have great linebackers, so he's probably going to feast on those guys. Yeah, Goddard.
Dallas
Uh,
Goedert has one 20-point game, but everything else, it's very mid. I
yeah,
mean, 9.5 points against the Buccaneers. That's pretty darn good too, but mm, is he worth getting in the 10th round
no.
ahead of guys like Jerome Ford, Caleb Williams, Jordan Love? That's how you know you're in a Bears league because Caleb Williams went ahead of Jordan Love. Um,
Uh,
Gus Edwards, I guess, knowing what we know now, Gus Edwards ended up
well,
being the better pick.
yeah, Jordan Love. Well, let's take a look at Jordan Love's numbers. I'm just curious because I know he had what 4 touchdowns this past week, but so did Williams.
Yeah, he got hurt those 2 games.
Oh
Yeah.
man, he doesn't get penalized for his interceptions, does he?
I thought I did. I don't know.
22.28
Oops, my
points
bad.
off his 3 interception game
Let's see, where's the 3 interception game?
against the Vikings.
Matt Bush, man, give me a break. 389 yards.
Dude,
You're
yeah, garbage
nitpicking. You're
time.
nitpicking.
Garbage time. Yeah, he's
Four,
got 6 interceptions, 12 touchdowns, six
yeah,
interceptions.
2-to-1 ratio, man. That's the new thing.
That's a bad ratio. I think Aaron Rodgers at one point was almost like 9-1. It was just stupid
Uh,
in his prime.
Listen, man, all that matters is I got Chase Brown in the ninth round, all right? It's the best draft pick of all time right there. That's all that matters. That's all that matters.
Hey man, it's always that one.
All I needed was just the one. And then the Bears defense, who I've been riding this whole year. This might be the first time that I'm actually keeping a defensive team from beginning to
Yeah.
end. It's been a while for me.
Yeah, I got the
Um,
Bears defense too.
yeah, it's hard because in this league I do reward for turnovers, sacks, and all that. So there's been some weeks where the Bears defense has been like the best, my best player, which doesn't say much about my team. Yeah, 34 and a half points against the Titans. Yeah, I'm not dropping them anytime soon, especially against the Commanders and the Cardinals and
Yeah.
the Patriots. And hell, even this game, this might get ugly in a hurry. But if it's like if it could be like the Texans game, I'm okay with double digit 13 points. Like
Well, I mean, look what they did last year to them. I mean, they caused Green Bay fits after. I mean, the first game of the year, throw that in the garbage can and burn it. I mean,
burn
the
it.
last game of the year, they played Green Bay really tough. I just think when you take a look at the Bears defense, you're going to have the Washington game. I think that's the potential to break the 21 point streak where they haven't given up 21 points. That's the one I worry about because you start taking a look at some of the weaknesses. Yes, they drop back in zone a lot, but what makes Trayman Edmonds so good is being able to roam and get to cover. Like he's a really, really great cover linebacker. Jaden Daniels is a different kind of animal with that speed. Like I don't think he's got the top end speed that Justin Fields has, but I mean, well, he doesn't have the power that Fields has either. Because I mean, keep in mind, Jaden Daniels is skinny. Like that dude is frail. And I always worry about him running. But the Bears defense, I'd be a little bit cautious against the commies. Then I would take a look at they're gonna they're gonna eat against the Cardinals and they're gonna eat against the
Patriots.
Patriots. Yeah, a rookie quarterback against that defense, if they get healthy, with everything being considered, I think they'll get Tyreek Stevenson back. They'll get Jaquan Brisker back. Kyler Gordon is the big one that I worry about because he left with a hamstring yesterday. He went to go get an MRI today. Hamstring injuries, man, like even when they're healed, that's still like an all season thing. So, and he's such an important piece of that defense. And that could make me rethink him again. Like if he's not back for the Packers game, Kyler Gordon, mm, that's going to be a tough start for me.
Yeah. Well, we've been on this for a lot longer than I anticipated, but what do I expect? It's a reunion show of sorts. With
That's
that being
right.
said, Matt Bushnell, you got the last word here. Thank you so much for being a guest on the podcast this evening. What are your last words here tonight?
Thank God football's back.
It's been 6 weeks now. What do you mean thank God it's back?
Oh man, b- baseball's been horrendous for me. I'll say this as a Chicago fan, Felipe,
Sure.
like we've been through the ups and downs of bad football teams. But 2016, Chicago had the Cubs, which kind of took their attention away from a shitty football product.
Yes.
Then from about 2008 to 2015, Chicago had the Blackhawks, Now, hockey's very tribal, as we talked about, but that kind of took things your mind away. And we had some very interesting Derrick Rose years.
Yes.
2005, you had the White Sox, but man, it's just having the Bears do this is exciting, even though it may not materialize in playoffs or championships this year. It's still exciting to have something where, man, you look forward in the future. And I love this one thing I heard Damian Woody say. The one thing the one word you associate with sports as a fan is hope.
Hope. Yep.
You hope.
You hope.
I only have that for the Bears. That's it.
That's ironic. It's been a show full of ironies, and the Bears having handing out hope is the biggest ironic thing of the night. But it's been
Yes.
hey, listen, it's been a long time running. I mean, we've been expecting this, we've been waiting for this, and it's been a complete crap show the last, aside from the 2018 team, it's been a complete crap show ever since Lovie Smith got fired. And even then, those Lovie Smith years with Jerry Angelo at the top, there were some weird moments as well, some head scratching moments. But it was all overshadowed because, Brian Urlacher, Lance Briggs, Devin Hester, Peanut Tillman, Jay Cutler to a lesser extent, Brandon Marshall to a lesser extent. There,
So,
we had some players on that team. We had some really great players on that team at one point. That also didn't materialize. But like I said, this feels different. This feels like everything's being done the right way. It's being done correctly. There's a vision. There's actual grown-ups and actual football people running the team,
yeah.
the not just a family member or somebody who was close with the family or whatever the hell they were doing beforehand. This feels like when I look at other franchises, we're finally doing what other franchises do to improve their football team. And it's a beautiful thing. I honestly, I
So
think it's a beautiful thing. Go ahead.
the one thing that the last thing I'm going to say Bears related, and obviously, I told you that, I had a contact with the Bears for quite a few years. There were things there that if they wrote a book, as soon as Lovey got that contract extension after the Super Bowl situation, he got a lot more power in the front office.
Mm-hmm.
And that's when the drafts really started to suck. And Jerry Angelo took a lot of heat. And I
That's
will be on record as saying I think that's undeserved.
I forgot about that. Yeah. I forgot
Yeah.
about that. We usually associate Lovie Smith with the most successful run for the Bears since, well,
Ditka.
Ditka. I know
Yeah.
Dick Duran led them to the playoffs that one year, and Dave Wannstedt, I guess, got him a playoff berth and a playoff win. Remember that
Yeah. I guess it was
Vikings.
it. Yeah, Vikings. Wow.
Yeah,
Only
only
to get smoked by the
the
Niners.
Niners the next thing. Hey, but we scored more points than anybody in the divisional round of those playoffs. We scored
That's right.
six. I think we scored 16 points. The lame ass Packers only scored 9 against the Cowboys. So
That's
take
right.
that. Green Bay sucks. Um, no, yeah, so we associate Lovie Smith with success. But yeah, I mean, it's only natural that a Super Bowl winning coach will have more of a say as to what he wants the team to look like.
Yeah.
And what do we say after all those guys were gone? Like, man, there's like no draft picks from the last 2 or 3 years. The cupboard's bare. And that's how we got stuck with Mitch Trubisky because like we earned that spot and that ended up being just a complete nightmare of a scenario. And it only got worse once Justin Fields, again, Ryan Pace draftees. That's why I was adamant that if you're gonna fire the coach, you gotta fire this guy too. Gotta fire Ryan
Yeah.
Pace too. They did not want to go that route. And we get stuck with Justin Fields, who was not the answer. With a head coach that was not Matt Nagy, was not the answer to be grooming him, despite the fact that he comes from the Andy Reid tree or whatever the hell he wanted us to convince. That
Well,
is still one of
yeah.
the biggest frauds in NFL, at least in Chicago Bears history.
I think when the annals of history is written about the Chicago Bears, a lot should be said about what a disgrace the McCaskey family has been to the city of Chicago
Yeah.
on a lot of different levels. And I'll say this: Chicago would be in the running for the worst sports city, and I'm going to throw ownership in here. The worst owners in professional sports, if it wasn't for one player, Michael Jeffrey Jordan.
Yeah.
If the Bulls didn't get lucky with Jordan, you're looking at one of the worst owners ever in the history of baseball in Jerry Reinsdorf, and probably the worst owner in professional basketball in Reinsdorf.
Yeah.
I mean, the Cubs were owned, I couldn't even tell you, like the Tribune Company owned the Cubs for a while, and then that whole thing. But the Bears has been the McCaskey family. It's been Hallis to McCaskey. And I hate to say this about Virginia, but she let her idiot sons run the organization for too
Yeah.
long. And George tried to do it his own way. He wanted to hire people like him. Who looked like George? Phil Emery. Who looked like George? Phil or Mark Trestman.
Oh, God.
And then they went with John Fox. They made that mistake. They stuck Ryan Pace with John Fox.
Yeah.
And then they gave Ryan Pace like, oh, well, we did you wrong. So they gave us Matt Nagy. And then they let Ryan Pace and Matt Nagy draft Justin Fields in a trade and then trade away draft capital to do it,
Hmm.
knowing damn well that they were lame duck coaches. So my last thing to say about football and this podcast, Felipe, and thank you for having me on,
Yeah. Thanks
is
for coming.
Chicago owners largely a disgrace.
It's still better than, having the Pirates owner, the Bob Nutting guy. It's better than having Fisher from the Oakland Athletics or Moreno for the Angels. Well, at least Moreno, I'll give him this much. He actually tries,
Mm-hmm. Yep.
but he might be trying too hard. It just seems like a lot of the stuff that they do over there is under the pressure of him wanting to do things his way. But he's never been shy to open up the checkbook.
Yeah.
Now, whether he doesn't spend it correctly, that's another issue, which I will give Jerry Reinsdorf credit because he's always been shrewd about the checkbook. But Moreno, at least he tries. But some people would complain that Moreno does not know what he's doing, and he's been a detriment to that team. But yeah, we here in Chicago, we have a long history of bad ownership, bad general managers and presidents. Um, yeah, it's a tough pill to swallow, but I'm hoping that this Ryan Poles guy can be the difference maker and not just a name that a flash in the pan, I guess I should say. Because the last time we trusted somebody from the Chiefs named Ryan, it ended up being Ryan Pace. The last time we trusted a head coach named Matt, it was Matt Nagy. And just I don't know what the hell's up with this team. They got Matt Eberflus and Ryan Poles, but here we go again. But hopefully we get different results. And on that note, that's a good place to stop. Matt, thank you once again for joining me this evening. For everybody else, check us out on Spotify, Apple, Google Podcasts, and of course on YouTube. Just look up the Total Basis Podcast or the Life Group Podcast banner. For Matt Bushnell, I am Felipe Milicio. Have a good one, everybody.